to say you feel relief. Stay away from your own family. But years from now, if you could make them proud, you can leave the world and feel like you've achieved the things you hope to do. But honestly, I don't feel ordinary, 'cause I haven't been at home in a while. Tell them that it's only temporary. I'm trying my best to smile, but that's never enough. 'Cause when you lose the ones you love, you might find it hard to cry until it's only you, and everybody else has left the room. You might feel what it's like to not know how to feel. You see, my old lady's old man just now left, and there's nothing I can say except this long-awaited rest is a good thing, and all good things must come to an end. It's right in front of me, so there's no reason to pretend, except I'm afraid to die. If this were a movie, you'd be taking our kids to school, and I will be Channing Tatum or somebody sexy, somebody cool. But years from now, if you could make them proud, you could leave the world and feel like you've achieved the things you hope to do. 'Cause honestly, I don't feel ordinary, 'cause I haven't left my house in a while. Tell them that it's only temporary. I'm trying my best to smile, but that's never enough. 'Cause when you lose the one you love, you might find it hard to cry until it's only you, and everybody else has left the room. You might feel what it's like to not know how to feel. Don't tell me you're sorry, you're just sorry for yourself. And though you may seem fine alone, well, I could be the one to help. No, don't tell me you're sorry, you're just sorry for yourself. And though you may seem fine alone, I wanna be the one to help. No, don't tell me you're sorry, you're just sorry for yourself. And though you may seem fine alone, I wanna be the one to help. No, don't tell me you're sorry, you're just sorry for yourself. And though you may seem fine alone, I wanna be the one to help. And don't tell me you're sorry, you're just sorry for yourself. And though you may seem fine alone, well, I can be the one to help. I said, don't tell me you're sorry, you're just sorry for yourself. And though you may seem fine alone, well, I can be the one to help.
Let me be a dreamer, let me float. I can see the whole world from my own little cloud up by the Milky Way. I'll stay here forever and a day. You can't pin me down, I fear all solid ground. rather be alone at tea. Love when nobody's making me. Oh, boys just make me cry. Believe me, I have tried. I've made my rounds, kissed some mouths. Trust me, I don't want a single soul around. Oh, I'm giving up, I'm throwing in my hat. I can't take another lifeless little chat. I'm moving up into a cloud, into my fantasy. And no boy's gonna be so smart as to try and pierce my porcelain heart. No boy's gonna kill the dreamer in me. Some might call me mad, the worst this town has had. I fell right down the rabbit hole. Legends say I fell so fast I lost my soul. Oh, my melancholic days are few and far away. I've had enough, called it off. As far as I'm concerned, the switch is numb to love. Oh, I'm giving up, I'm throwing in my hat. I can't take another lifeless little chat. I'm moving up into a cloud, into my fantasy. Yeah, no boy's gonna be so smart as to try and pierce my porcelain heart. And no boy's gonna kill the dreamer in me. Yeah, no boy's gonna be so smart as to try and pierce my porcelain heart. No boy's gonna kill the dreamer in
We are we are back. We are back with more content. More content. I guess first thing first. First things first. I do want to address. Last time. Hold on. Something's popping up on my little YouTube theme. The audio stream current bitrate 0. My audio bitrate is at 0. What does that even mean? That shit should not be happening. There should be no issues. Hold on. There should be no issues. Hold on. All right. I don't know what's the problem. There should be absolutely nothing wrong with the stream right now. But all right. Where was I? All right. On my very first stream, that wasn't on this channel. It was on my old Big Ricky channel I started when seventh grade Ricky started the channel. You know, when he streamed Apex, Siege, and other like shitty little games. That's the channel I use. And the only reason why the first stream is on that channel is just because my browser completely fucked up the verification to actually start streaming on desktop. So I was like, shit, I'm not going to wait another 24 hours. I'm just going to stream on like the channel I made far back. One of the viewers started pressing me about my recommendations on YouTube, that it was just a bunch of commentary slot. And I'm assuming this is the part he was talking about, where you can see here all over the slide, it's just a bunch of these dog shit same commentary slot. But what he didn't notice, it's in the top right, it says sign in, and still currently it still says sign in, because I do not daily this fucking Brave browser. So all my recommendations are anything I've pulled up on stream. Even now, like the one video I ever pulled up at this point was just about like the David stuff from this Blackie Speaks guy, some commentary slop guy. So no shit. This whole right side is just gonna be the same bullshit, cause there's like no history for like YouTube to go off of. We scroll down now, it's still like random shit that's like barely related to things that I've covered on stream. So that guy is retarded. But before I got YMS. Apparently YMS has been debating bestiality for the past 10 years. And I got this 17-minute video that we're gonna see if it's any good. It's by Nicandros. We'll see how it is, but a few minutes before I actually started up the stream, I saw this article. What the hell is happening in the UK? First cousin marriage has benefits, says NHS and NHS guidance, despite birth defect risk. Tory MP says house service should stop taking the knee to damaging cultural practices. The NSH has been urged to apologize for publishing guidance extolling, holy shit, the benefits of first cousin marriages despite the increased risk of birth defects. Guidance published last week by the NHS England's genomics education program says first cousin marriage is linked to stronger extended family support systems and economic advantages. But the practice has also been linked to the oppression of women and also has a proven risk of genetic disease and offspring and first cousin relationships. Richard Holden, the Tory MP, told the Mail on Sunday our NHS should stop taking the knee to damaging and oppressive cultural practices. The Conservative wants to see an end to cousin marriage as a backdoor to immigration too, but Labour are deaf to these sensitive demands. Sir Keir Starmer should stop running scared of misogynistic community controllers and their weaseling who appear in form of cultural. Holy shit! I cannot read. Relativists. Holy shit. Repress sociology professor and ban the practice. The overwhelming majority from every community in Britain want to see an end for goal. And I'm assuming they're bringing it up because it probably isn't. Well, it probably is. It probably is as well. But it probably is more common, more acceptable for like these Muslims to be marrying for these arranged marriages between their cousins. Marrying a first cousin is legal in the UK, but it increases the risk of children inheriting genetic conditions. Health issues such as sickle disease and cystic fibrosis are more likely to be carried or contracted in children whose parents are closely related. Cultures that encourage first cousin marriage have also been accused of oppressing women and being used as tool to suppress personal freedoms. Dr. Patrick Mass, an expert on religious law and director of the Pharaoh's Foundation, the social science research group in Oxford, called the guidance truly dismaying. Cousin marriage is incest, plain and simple. It needs to be banned with the utmost urgency. There is no balance to be struck between this cultural and lifestyle choice and the severe public health implication it occurs. This official article is deeply misleading and should be retracted with an apology so that the public is not misled by omission and half-truths. The NHS guidance points out that the practice has been legal in the UK since the 1500s as a loophole for King Henry, what is that, 13? 8? I don't know my Roman numerals. To marry Catherine Howard, his ex-wife's cousin. The document mentions that marriage between cousins has long been the subject of scientific discussion based on the slight increase in risk of inheriting diseases. It also adds that there are other things that can increase this risk as well, such as alcohol, smoking, and parental age, none of which are banned in the UK. And genetic counseling awareness, raising initiatives, and public health campaigns are all important tools to help families make informed decisions without stigmatizing certain communities and cultural traditions, the guidance reads. A spokesman for the NHS said the article published on the website and the Genomics Education Program is a summary of existing scientific research and the public policy debate. It is not expressing an NHS view. That shit sounds weird, man. Probably shouldn't be legal. It probably shouldn't be legal. There's one more thing. I want to get into before we get into the YMS topic. me pull it up real quick. It's about YouTube settling with with Trump. Hold on, let's pull up Internet Archive. Not that. All right. YouTube settles a Trump lawsuit for $24.5 million. Mr. Trump sued Alphabet, the parent company of YouTube and Google, and other social media companies after the platform suspended his accounts in 2021. YouTube has agreed to pay $24.5 million in a settlement to President Trump and others who were banned by the streaming platform. In the wake of the January 6th riot at the U.S. Capitol, according to a legal document filed on Monday, the vast majority of YouTube's settlement payment, $22 million, will go to Trump, according to the filing in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of California. He has directed that money to contribute to the trust for the National Mall to the construction of his ballroom. The ballroom he was so obsessed with. The remaining $2.5 million will be distributed among other plaintiffs in the case, including the writer Naomi Wolf and the American Conservative Union. Mr. Trump has sued Alphabet, the parent company of YouTube and Google, and other social media companies after the platform suspended its account in 2021. Lawyer for Mr. Trump and representatives for YouTube did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Do we care what Meta said? Hold on. I gotta find another article to I feel like there was another article that went in that, but I don't remember. I don't remember where it's from. Hold on. All right, maybe this one is better. Let's see. All right, this makes Alphabet. Alphabet on YouTube, the last of the big three tech social media companies sued by Trump, which includes Meta, then Twitter, now called X, to settle over his removal over their platforms. That's where it's going. What else we got? I feel like there was some argument that it was gonna be some that it was also related to some monopoly or advertisement. It's a little retarded that there is if there is if YouTube actually has a monopoly, some part of the on video advertisement, then it should probably be dismembered. But whatever. All right, let's actually get into this video.
Welcome, I'm Nicantros. If you're wondering where that big video is that I've been hyping up, I'll talk about that later. Rob's Media released a video recently showing a bunch of instances where Your Movie Sucks, YMS, or Adam has criticized laws criminalizing zoophilia. According to Adam, people shouldn't go to jail for engaging in what he calls non-abusive sexual contact with animals, and he reiterated the stance in his response to Rob's video.
And my position has always been that even though I would like it not to happen, even though I don't like that thing, I have no interest in it, and I would prefer if other people don't do it. If you give me a world, where no people are doing that versus a world where people are doing that, I would choose the world where no people are doing that, right? That's always been my position. However, I do find it stupid that many of our legal policies regarding this issue are not based on the welfare of the animal.
He brings up how humans regularly make sexual contact with animals, not for pleasure, but for the purpose of breeding them as part of animal husbandry or agriculture.
If somebody is doing it but has a different thought in their head, if that's not their thought, but their thought is instead, oh, this is hot, or whatever, people believe that person should be in jail. Which, if you believe that, that's fine, but just admit that you want them to be in jail for a thought crime, right? You want them to be in jail because of what was happening in their brain, not because of the welfare of the animal, right? If it was because of the welfare of the animal, then you would also believe that other people should be in jail for doing the same thing. Again, not even considering the meat industry, not even considering that.
So his stance has always been that he's against zoophilia and bestiality. But didn't he say that animals can consent to sex with humans?
People have asked me, how is it possible for an animal to consent to a human being? And my answer was the same way it consents to another animal. Now, people have interpreted that as me saying animals want to have sex with human beings and therefore it's all good or whatever. People have interpreted that as me saying all actions, sexually towards animals are permissible because of that. That is not my position. Things that are a part of our common knowledge in pop culture, like America's Funniest Home Videos, right? There'll be a clip of like, a woman fell down a hill, and then the dog just starts humping her. And so my response is the dog not consenting to some sort of sexual act by doing a sexual act on the human, right? Sure, it's not informed consent, right? And that doesn't mean, oh, dog's humping you, therefore you can do something else to it.
Hold on. Hold on. What American Funniest Home Videos have you been watching where this family friendly show that's like meant to be watched together with a family? They're just openly showing a clip like a dog humping another person. I don't remember that.
I never said that. It's not informed consent. It's not my standard for consent, but it seems possible, right? It seems like they have their own version.
So animals can consent to sex with humans, but merely being able to consent isn't enough. The animal would need to be able to give informed consent, which they can't, and so therefore Adam finds zoophilia immoral. But he questions why artificial insemination, etc. is illegal, but bestiality that doesn't harm the animal is criminal. There's many angles from which you can criticize Adam's deep philosophical thinking here. In the case of Rob's Media, he compared Adam to Vosh, since Vosh liked to debate the ethics of pedophilia before it was revealed that he had Lolly on his computer, and more recently it came out that he had tried to groom a minor in 2017. So Rob is suspecting that Adam is secretly a zoophile or pro-zoophilia behind the scenes. But Adam claims that's not the case at all. He's never held that position. So, is Adam like Vosh? Is he a zoophile or a zoophilia supporter? He says he isn't, but I think Adam is in denial. I think he's suffering from repressed memories. I found this old videotape which I thought was interesting. Let's check it out.
I'm not a support of animal rape. I'm a support of
Right, W?
of consensual supporter of consensual zoophilia. I don't encourage it. I'm not gonna convince someone to try it. I've never tried it. I don't intend on ever trying it, but I recognize that people exist that will live their whole lives with an urge to do something like that, and meanwhile, while every other person on the planet gets to fulfill their eternal psychological, emotionally / physically driven urges, these other people on the planet that are attracted to the wrong thing somehow aren't able to do that, despite not harming animals in any way that they wouldn't be harmed through any other non-sexual activity, you know?
10 years ago, he identified himself as a zoophilia supporter, and he portrayed zoophiles as victims of societal injustice. I'm going to give him some mercy. This video is from 10 years ago, but no matter what, he's lied to his audience. He either lied about never having supported zoophilia, or he's lying right now, and he actually does still support it, but he's simply learned to hide his true beliefs. What about his stance on animals' capacity for consent?
To suggest that there's no such thing as consensual human/animal sex is to be the most naive person on the fucking planet. Dogs try to hump your fucking leg. That's all the evidence I need. I don't have to have sex with an animal to know that animals don't have the same type of reservations that human beings do.
No. Like, yeah, dog may do that. Dog will also hump anything. But like, would he use that same logic for like kids? Like kids that like that accidentally or like unknowingly are, like masturbating themselves just because it feels good. They don't know like their own action. It's like the same thing like with a dog. Is he gonna have the same position for that?
Do when it comes to sex. If it feels good, they're probably okay with it. If they try to bite you or run away, that's probably a sign that they're not okay with it. So the argument that, oh, you can't tell if it's consenting or not, even though it's clearly enjoying itself. Okay, such bullshit. I can't believe people. I can't believe how much of society is just dictated by people saying, I don't like it, or ick, that's gross, or they're not a part of my tribe. It's disgusting to me. It's disgusting to me. Human-animal sex is not nearly as disgusting as the mentality that discriminates against people who have never abused animals that are attracted to animals.
I'd like to point out that this is not a live stream VOD. It is a highlight. He thought he was really spitting here.
I'm sure if somebody was having sex with an animal and they were enjoying it and they got caught, I'm sure they would be able to prove that the animal's enjoying it in court. If they're allowed to just do it and record it again or something, I'm sure they'd be able to prove it if that's what they're doing. If somebody's abusing an animal and having sex with it, I am not in favor of that. But I'm just not naive enough to believe that there's no such thing as an animal that can enjoy having sex with a human being. They're just horny fucking animals. They don't give a shit. They don't have sex and then go, oh, I wonder what he thought about me, or am I really with the right person, or is this what I want to do with my life, or any of the other human psychologically repressed reservations that we have. Animals don't do that. They don't think that far. They just want to ejaculate. That's all they want to do.
So in the past he believed that a human standard of consent doesn't apply to animals. Not just that, but he claims there's no evidence that consensual human-animal interactions are psychologically harmful to the animal.
If we gave a shit about animals being psychologically affected, even though A, there's no evidence to suggest that they would be negatively psychologically affected by consensual, enjoyable sex. Even if there were, you don't put people in jail for leaving a dog in a kennel when it doesn't want to be in a kennel. You don't put people in jail for feeding an animal the same food over and over again its entire life. You don't put people in jail for leaving a dog in your back porch with nowhere to go to the bathroom. Leave it there for like 8 hours while you're gone to work, come back, and once you see that it pissed itself because it had nowhere to go, then you rub their fucking nose in their piss. You don't put people in jail for that, so you shouldn't put people in jail for sucking a dog's dick. Seriously, the world is fucked up. The world is so fucked up. We eat and kill animals. We are discriminating against people, and the only reason that people hold a different standard to it is because they're attracted to something that other people aren't. And that is what is absolutely disgusting about this. Anyway, I'm passionate about it because it's huge discrimination going on right now.
Are you sure there's nothing else behind this passion?
I stand by these statements. I don't. If I'm crucified for these statements, then 20 years from now, people will look back.
I just realized I super don't care about this. I super don't care about this guy. This guy's a freak. But I do have one more thing. So, I think on Friday or over the weekend, on the Ezra Klein podcast, one of my favorite liberals. And there you go. Recently had, I don't know how to say his name, but recently had a guy on to talk about their disagreement, where the day after Charlie Kirk's assassination, Ezra Klein put out an article where he was talking about how Charlie Kirk did politics right. Let's see, what's the title? Charlie Kirk was practicing politics the right way. And correctly, he received a lot of backlash online over this. Because obviously Charlie Kirk didn't deserve to get popped. You shouldn't be popping pundits just for speech, all right? Pretty understandable that if we want a healthy platform, people should be safe to express their opinions. But obviously, immediately after, just like this whitewashing Charlie Kirk's image of he was all he was doing was just coming on these college campuses and having real honest debates with these college students, when obviously for like the past 4 or 5, 6 years, he's just been a tool by the Trump campaign, just running complete propaganda. And obviously there's all the clips of where he's saying he would force his 10-year-old daughter to carry out a rape baby, where he laughs about offering kids free school lunches, where he's saying that the U.S.-Mexico border, like the U.S. should treat it like the Israel border, where you should start firing shots. At first, you should start firing right next to them. If they keep on coming, just mow them all down. Obviously, one of the people. Hold on, I gotta figure out how they actually pronounce his name. Pronunciation. Perfect.
Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Ta-Nehisi Coates. All right. that sounds a little retarded with the AI thing, but Nehisi, we're gonna call him Nehisi Coates. Mr. Coates. Mr. Coates is much easier. Mr. Coates on Vanity Fair also wrote an article. Charlie Kirk redeemed. A political class finds its lost cause. So first we're gonna start with the first article by Ezra, and then we're gonna go with the response, and then Ezra Klein invited Mr. Coates onto his podcast to hash it out. All right. The foundation of free society is the ability to participate in politics without fear of violence. To lose that is risk of losing everything. Charlie Kirk and his family just lost everything. As a country, we came closer to losing everything too. We've been edging closer for some time now. In 2020, a plot to kidnap Gretchen Wilmer, the governor of Michigan, was foiled by the FBI. In 2021, a mob stormed the Capitol in an effort to overturn the result of the election, and pipe bombs were found at the Democratic and Republican National Committee headquarters. 2022, a man broke into the home of Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House at the time, intending to kidnap her. She was absent, but the intruder assaulted her 82-year-old husband, Paul, with a hammer, fracturing his skull. In 2024, President Trump was nearly assassinated. The same year, Brian Thompson, the chief executive of United Healthcare, was murdered. In 2025, Molotov cocktails were thrown into the home of Governor Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania during Passover. Melissa Hortman and the former House Speaker of Minnesota and her husband were murdered. And the state senator John Hoffman and his wife were severely injured by a gunman. And on Wednesday, Kirk, the founder of Turning Point America, was gunned down during a speech at the Utah Valley University. You can dislike much of what Kirk believed in, and the following statement is true. Kirk was practicing politics in exactly the right way. Wait, I read that wrong. You can dislike much of what Kirk believed, and in the following statement is still true. Kirk was practicing politics in exactly the right way. He was showing up to campuses, talking with anyone who would talk to him. He was one of the era's most effective practitioners of persuasion. When left thought its hold on the hearts and minds of college students was nearly absolute, Kirk showed up again and again to break it. Slowly then, all at once, he did. College-age voters shifted sharply to the right in the 2024 election. That was not all Kirk's doing, but he was central in laying the groundwork for it. I did not know Kirk, and I am not the right person to eulogize him, but I envy what he built. A taste for disagreement is a virtue in democracy. Liberalism could use more of his moxie, fearlessness. In the inaugural episode of his podcast, Governor Gavin Newsom of California hosted Kirk, admitting that his son was a huge fan. What a testament to Kirk's project. On social media, I've been mostly dissent reactions to Kirk's murder. There is a grief and shock from both the left and right, but I have seen W streamer L Charlie Squirt L Kirk. On social media, I've seen holy shit, I just read that. But I've seen two forms of reaction. Actually, hold on. I'm gonna start the segment over now that Jose is here. A few days ago, Ezra Klein, one of my favorite liberals, co-author of Abundance, recently had on Mr. Cokes to talk about Charlie Kirk disagreements. The day after Charlie Kirk's murder, Ezra Klein wrote an article saying Charlie Kirk was practicing politics the right way, and he received a lot of backlash, rightly so. Am I the only one to tune in? Yes. So far, you're the only one to tune in. But he received a lot of backlash for this article, because obviously Charlie Kirk was not doing politics the right way. Charlie Kirk was just another microphone for the Trump campaign to just straight up spread misinformation. Obviously, there's a clip of him saying he'd force his 10-year-old daughter to carry out a rape baby. He said that the U.S. and Mexico border, that the U.S. should be treating it like Israel is treating their borders. The open fire, well, the first open fire near the asylum seekers. But if they keep on coming, then start mowing them down. Obviously, he laughed about offering kids school lunch. This guy was a propagandist, and a poison to speech. So Mr. Coates, later on, wrote an article responding to Ezra, and obviously later on, Ezra invited him onto his podcast to talk about it. But first, we're gonna finish reading the first article by Ezra Klein. I'm not gonna reread it. White people's MLK. He's not white people's MLK. White people do not care about Charlie Kirk. They're probably I don't know if glad is like the right view, the right word to use, but they are abusing the fuck out of it. Fuentes had the right take. Obviously at the funeral, it was just like another RNC like convention thing, you know, sending out emails and text messages saying like, we're so sad, give us $10-15, you know. They're just using this as an opportunity to slingshot their movement. But let's get back into the article. Hold on. But I've seen two forms of reaction that are misguided. However comprehensive the rage of horror that provoked them. One is the move on the left to wrap Kirk's death around his views. After all, he defended the Second Amendment, even admitting he meant accepting innocent deaths. Another is on the right to turn his murder into justification for an all-out war. But as the list above reveals, there is no world in which political violence escalates. Hold on, I'm not reading that right. But as the list above reveals, there is no world in which political violence escalates, but is contained to just your foes. Even if that were possible, it would still be a world of horrors, a society that had collapsed into the most irreversible form of unfreedom. Political violence is a virus. It is contagious. We have been through periods in our country when it was W commentary slot. Am I commentary slot? All right. Well, fuck it. I am. Ricky Live loves commentary slot. We are a commentary slot. Political violence is a virus. It is contagious. We have been through periods in this country when it was endemic. In the 1960s, there were the assassinations of John F. Kennedy, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr., Robert F. Kennedy, and holy shit, where did I get Melbourne? Medgar Evers. In the 1970s, Governor George Wallace was shot by a would-be assassin but survived. And Gerald Ford faced 2 assassination attempts in 1 month. In 1981, Ronald Reagan survived his John Hinckley Jr.'s holy shit, I cannot read. In 1981, Ronald Reagan survived after John Hinckley's Jr. bullet ricocheted off his rib and punctured his lung. These assassins and would-be assassins had different motives, different politics, and different levels of mental stability. When political violence becomes imaginable, either as a tool of politics or a ladder for fame, it begins to infect hosts heedlessly. American politics has sides. There is no use pretending it doesn't. Both sides are meant to be on the same side of a larger project. We are all, or most of us anyway, trying to maintain the viability of the American experience. We can live with losing an election because we believe in the promise of the next election. We can live with losing an argument because we believe that there will be another argument. Political violence impairs that. Kirk and I were on different sides of most political arguments. We were on the same side on the continued possibility of American politics. It is supposed to be an argument, not a war. It is supposed to be won with words, not ended with bullets. I wanted Kirk to be safe for his sake, but I also wanted him to be safe for mine and for the sake of our larger shared project. The same is true for Shapiro, for Hoffman, for Hortman, for Thompson, for Trump, for Pelosi, for Wilmer. We're all safe. Or none of us are. Obviously, he's right there at the end. But he's just like whitewashing Kirk's legacy. So we'll see what Mr. Coates responded with. Hold on, I gotta pull up an archive. Hold on. I thought I already had the archive ready. No, I did not. Alright, fuck it. Let's pull up Internet Archive so we can get the full article. All right. Oh shit. Does am I not able to to get access even with the Wayback Machine? Is this one right? Is this one gonna block me when it finishes loading? Alright, fuck it. We're gonna start reading. Before he was killed last week, Charlie Kirk left a helpful compendium of words, ones that would greatly aid those who sought to understand his legacy and import. It is somewhat difficult to match these words with the manner in which Kirk is precisely being memorialized in mainstream discourse. New York Times columnist Ezra Klein dubbed Kirk one of the era's most effective practitioners of persuasion, and a man who was practicing politics in exactly the right way. California's Governor Gavin Newsom hailed Kirk's passion and commitment to debate, advertising us to continue Kirk's work by engaging with each other across Hold on. I'm sorry I'm late from my streamer. It won't happen again. Go. You haven't missed anything, go. You know, I did try covering the YMS stuff, but I really don't care. It really is just like it's just like retarded vegan talk. Yes, can we get W Reader in chat? W Reader in chat. Also, there are 0 likes on the stream right now. 0. We need the 2 chatters to at least be the only 2 likes. I'm begging. Hold on. How long have you been watching? Should I recap what we've been going through? All right. You want engagement? Engagement is engagement. All right, I'll do another quick summary. Ezra Klein is one of my favorite podcasters, one of my favorite liberals, co-author of Abundance that he released earlier this year. I'm a big fan. I think the title says Ezra Klein, my liberal goat. Retarded? Recently on his podcast, he invited Mr. Coates to talk about this article you wrote the day after Charlie Kirk's assassination, saying that Charlie Kirk was practicing politics the right way. Just continuing the narrative of Charlie Kirk was just this guy that loved doing debates, that loved challenging his ideas. When he wasn't spreading his ideas. He was just campaigning for Trump for like the past 4, 5, 6 years. Mr. Coates wrote an article calling men out, and then once we finish this article, we'll go into the actual podcast. We'll start here. Ezra Klein dubbed Kirk one of the era's most effective practitioners of persuasion, and a man who was practicing politics in exactly the right way. California Governor Gavin Newsom hailed Kirk's passion and commitment to debate, advertising us to continue Kirk's works by engaging with each other across ideology through spirited discourse. Atlantic writer Sally Jenkins saluted Kirk, claiming he argued with civility and asserted that his death was a significant loss for those who believed engagement can help bridge disagreements. The mentions of debate and engagement are references to Kirk's campus tours, during which he visited various colleges to take on whoever come may. That this aspect of Kirk's work would be so attractive to writers and politicians is understandable. There is, after all, a persuasive worry among the political class that college students inconstant? I do not know this word. Hold on, goats.
Ensconce.
Establish or settle someone's comfort. All right. In their own bubbles, could use a bit of shock therapy from a man unconcerned with preferred pronouns, trigger warnings, and humanity Palestinians. But it also shows how the political class obsession with universities blinds it to everything else. And everything else of Kirk's politics amounted to little more than a loathing of those whose mere existence provoked his ire. It is not just, for instance, that Kirk held disagreeable views, that he was pro-life, that he believed in public executions, or that he rejected the separation of church and state. It's that Kirk revealed in open bigotry. Indeed, claims of Kirk's civility are tough to square with his penchant? The fuck is this? Hold on, goats. We're going to be looking up every word I don't recognize, goats. Word meaning identity or recognition. Alright. That's true. He did not like the civil rights movement. He said it was a mistake, didn't he? Hold on. I think that's his exact words. Kirk, what? Civil rights mistake? I think I might be spreading misinformation. All right, there is an immediate article, but I'm pretty sure he calls the civil rights movement a mistake. Maybe it comes up later, or maybe I'm lying. For demeaning members the LGBTQ plus community as freaks and referring to trans people with the slur tranny, faced with the prospect of Kamala Harris' presidency, Kirk told his audience that the threat had to become averted because Harris wanted to kidnap your children via the trans agenda. Garden variety transphobia is sadly unremarkable, but Kirk was the master of folding seemingly discordant. Hold on, I do not recognize this. Hold on, go.
Discordant.
All right, just disagreement. Bigotries into each other, as when he defined the American way of life as marriage, home ownership, and child rearing free of the lesbian, gay, transgender garbage in their school, adding that he did not want kids to have to hear the Muslim call to prayer 5 times a day. The American life was Christendom, Kirk claimed, and Islam. Your streamer is reading above his reading level. Your streamer has a first grade reading level. It's okay, go. We're gonna improve it here live. Holy shit! I already lost where I was. But since the article brought up about the transes in the schools. So remember the clip where Kirk is advocating for youth to physically step in. If there is a trans woman competing in women's sports at your local school, how the fuck am I gonna search this up? Shit. Hold on. I'll probably bring it up later. I don't know how I'm gonna find the clip. We'll just continue on with the article. Where was I? Kirk is sorted, and New York mayor candidate Zoran Mandami was a Mohammedan, with Kirk supporting that anyone trying to see Mohammedanism take over the West will love to have New York, a prior Anglo center under Mohammedan rule. Kirk habitually railed against black crime, claiming that proudly blacks go around for fun to target white people. He repeated the rape accusations against Yusuf Salam. I don't know if I'm saying that right. A member of the exonerated Central Park 5, who is now a New York City councilman, calling him a disgusting pig who had gotten away with gang rape. Whatever distaste Kirk held for blacks was multiplied when he turned to those from Haiti. Haiti, by Kirk's lights, a country infested with demonic voodoo, whose migrants were raping your women and hunting you down at night. These Haitians, as well as undocumented immigrants from other countries, not companies, countries, were having a field day per Kirk and coming for your daughter next. The only hope was Donald Trump, who had to prevail, lest Haitians become your masters. The point of which so-called mastery was as familiar as it was conspiratorial. Great replacement. Hold on. There was an anti-white agenda Kirk held, one that sought to make the country more like the third world, the southern border, the dumping ground of the planet, he claimed, and a magnet for the rapists, the thugs, the murderers, the fighting age males. They're coming from across the world, from China, from Russia, from Middle Eastern countries, he said, and that they're coming in. And they're coming in, and they're coming in, and they're coming in. You can probably imagine where this line was, where this line of thinking eventually went. Jewish donors, Kirk claimed, were the number one funding mechanism of radical, open border, neoliberal, quasi-Marxist policy, cultural institutions, and nonprofits. Indeed, the philosophical foundation of anti-whiteness has largely been financed by Jewish donors in the country. Kirk's bigotry was not personal, but extended to the institution he founded, Turning Point USA. Crystal Clayton, the group's former national field director, once texted a fellow Turning Point employee, "I hate black people. Like, fuck them all. I hate blacks. End of story." One of the group's advisors, Rip McTosh? McIntosh? I don't know how to say that last name. One published a newsletter featuring an essay from, holy shit, I don't know how to say that. Pseudonymous? Shit, that's not an easy copy and paste. We're just gonna move on. Writer said that blacks had become socially incompatible with other races. That black culture was unfixable and a crime-ridden mess. In 2022, after 3 black footballers were killed at another college, Meg Miller, president of Turning Point chapter at the University of Missouri, joked in a social media message that if they had killed 4 hold on. Meg Miller joked in a social media message, if they would have killed 4 more niggers, they would have had the whole week off. Kirk subscribed to some of the most disreputable and harmful beliefs that this country has ever known, but it is still chilling to think that those beliefs would have been silenced by a gunshot. The tragedy is personal. Kirk was robbed of his life, and his children and family will forever live with the knowledge that a visual record of that robbery is just an internet search away, and that the tragedy is national. Political violence ends in conversation and invites war. Its rejection is paramount to a functioning democracy and free society. Political violence is a virus, Klein noted. This assertion is true. It is also at odds with Kirk's own words. It's not that Kirk merely, as Klein put it, defended the Second Amendment. It's that Kirk endorsed hurting people to advance his preferred policy outcomes. In 2022, when Kirk was frustrated, for instance, by the presence of Leah Thomas on the University of Pennsylvania's women's swim team, Kirk did not call for spirited discourse. And said, while discussing a recent championship tournament, he said he would have liked to see a group of fathers descend from the stands, forming a line in front of Leah Thomas, saying, "Hey, tough guy, you want to get in the pool? Because you're not going. Because you're gonna have to come through us." Mere weeks before his death, Kirk revealed that in Trump's deployment of federal troops to D.C., shock and awe force, he wrote, "We're taking our country back from those cockroaches." In 2023, Kirk told his audience that then President Joe Biden was a corrupt tyrant who should be put in prison and or given the death penalties for his crimes against America. What are we to make of a man who called for the execution of the American president and then was What are we to make of a man who called for the execution of the American president and then was executed himself? What are we to make of the NFL that on one hand encourages us to end racism and on the other urges us to commemorate an unreconstructed is it really unreconstructed? I'm sorry, goats.
Unreconstructed.
Alright, it's unreconstructed. White supremacists. And one of the writers, the thinkers, and the pundits who cannot separate the great crime of Kirk's death from the Holy shit. We're gonna look this up.
Malignancy.
Malignancy. The state of pregnant. Oh, wait, hold on. There's only examples? Oh, it's just like a cancer. Alright. Of his public life. Can they truly be so ignorant to the words of a man they have so rushed to memorialize? I don't know. But the most telling detail in Klein's column was that for all this praise, there was not a single word in the piece from Kirk himself. More than a century and a half ago, this country ignored the explicit words of men who sought to erase an empire of slavery. It subsequently transformed those men into gallant knights who sought only to preserve their beloved Camelot. The fuck is this? Is it gonna be like some Conan thing? Actually, man, I don't know that reference. There was a fatigue in certain quarters with Reconstruction, which is to say, multiracial democracy and desire for a reunion to make America great again. Thus, in the 19th century and much of the 20th, this country most storied intellectuals transfigured hate mongers into heroes and ignored their words, just as right now some are ignoring Kirk's. Words are not violence, nor are they powerless. Burying the truth of the Confederacy, rewriting. What is this? White liberals on Instagram all defended and honored the squirt. What's my goat stream's views on the shooting? What do you mean? I do not honor Kirk. Kirk was a discussing cancer on our politics, but that doesn't mean he should have been shot. I think it's pretty obvious that there's a social contract when we participate in politics, and it's broken when there's violence. All right. Everyone should be safe to express their views. I don't know. That's the obvious take. Obviously, I think it's okay to laugh. To laugh at the jokes about Squirt. I think it's okay to call him Charlie Squirt. Political violence is bad. I don't know. Where was I? Words are not violence, nor are they powerless. Burying the truths of Confederacy, rewriting its aims and ideas, and ignoring its animating words allowed for the terrorization of the black population, the imposition of apartheid, and the destruction of democracy. The rewriting and the ignoring were done not just by Confederates, but also by putative, I think I'm saying that right, putative allies, for whom the reduction of black people to serfdom was the unfortunate price of white unity. The imports of this history have never been clearer than in this moment, when the hard question must be asked: if you look away from the words of Charlie Kirk, from what else would you look away? That's a response from Mr. Kirk. Ezra Klein. Let's start the actual podcast.
True about what President Donald Trump said at Charlie Kirk's memorial service.
He did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them. That's where I disagreed with Charlie.
One is it's frightening to see the President of the United States talk this way about...
Are all your streams as peak as this? All my streams. There's like a constant peak. You know, the last two streams didn't have me saying the hard R. You know, this stream did have me say the hard R. Thinking back on it now, I I probably shouldn't have I shouldn't have read. I didn't say the hard R. I read out the hard R. I probably shouldn't have. That might get my stream in trouble. But we'll move.
His political foes.
I hate my opponent, and I don't want the best for them. I'm sorry.
The other, I think, is that it's an opportunity. I don't think that is a strong politics. And for me, one of the central questions animating the show this year, that has been animating it since the election, is how did we get here? How did we let these people get back into power? What went wrong in our approach to politics that we ended up?
Also, before we continue, how's like the audio balance between the video and my mic? Is one of them like too quiet? Need to know, goats. Cause I'm gonna be honest, goats. I don't like going back into the streams and hearing my own voice. So how's the audio balance between me and like the videos I play? I don't know. like is it obvious that like I'm a lot louder than the video, or is like the video a lot louder than me? We'll just continue. My chat is retarded.
This has been a conversation I've been engaged in since Charlie Kirk's murder. And I wanted to have it with somebody who has maybe not liked who I've been approaching it. Ta-Nehisi Coates is a writer I admire, somebody I have a genuine friendship with. In the days after Kirk's murder, he published a piece in Vanity Fair, pretty harshly critical of what I had written. He compared what I was doing there to the whitewashing of the Southern cause after the Civil War. I think it would be the height of hypocrisy for me to say we need to reach across divides and disagreement and then not talk across my own. So I wanted to talk to Ta-Nehisi about the piece, about the aftermath of Kirk's murder, but also about a disagreement, or question at least, that I think is about more than Kirk. I think there's something very unsettled in the sort of broad coalition of the left around the work of politics, around who we talk to and when and how. When is that work moral? When is it necessary? When is it a betrayal? As always, my email, EzraKleinShow@nytimes.com. Ta-Nehisi Coates, welcome back to the show.
Thanks. I don't know what number time this is.
I think you're one of the. If you go back to the box days, I think you're one of the. You're on the leaderboard for sure.
Yeah.
Well, chat. When you agree more with Mr. Coates, spam W Black in chat. And when you agree with Mr. Klein more, spam W White in chat.
Good to see you, man.
Good to be here, Ezra. Thank you.
All right, well, let's jump into the disagreement. You wrote a column responding to my column on Charlie Kirk.
Which is so uncomfortable.
It's okay. What was your disagreement with what I wrote after Kirk was assassinated?
Yeah. First of all, I just want to thank you for having me. You know, I know that I've had to read things about myself that, criticize my work. It's never easy, and people often have a very, very different response than the one you had, which is to invite me here and to talk it out. So I appreciate that. I want to say that up front. I felt that when I initially read the column, and I guess we should be fully transparent here and say there was a discussion between us privately before there was a public thing.
Yeah, we text.
Yeah, we did. We do text regularly, and we did text about this. So I felt like, having not done the research that I eventually did for the column, there was something off about what I knew about this guy. And the presentation of him as, and I don't want to misquote you here, but as basically a paragon of politics and how politics should be done. So I think I had the same reaction that most ordinary people would have, which is absolute horror. At the idea that this guy was somewhere speaking and was killed. But I always think it's like important to differentiate how people die versus how they live. And then after doing the research, I had to be honest with you. That's when it got really, really difficult. When I went past my initial impressions and started like going through all of the clips of the things he said, the way he talked about people, the way he, described groups in ways that honestly, even as I was writing it, I was uncomfortable saying. And so the idea that this guy,
reading it, reading the things he said, it too. Reading out the hard R also made me uncomfortable. Kirk wasn't the one that typed out the hard R. It was it was someone else on Turning Point. But you know what, chat, it also made me uncomfortable.
should be in any way celebrated for how he conducted politics. The fact that he just slurred across the board, all sorts of groups of people, and then ran an organization wherein, which appeared to me just a haven of hatred. I would not want that to be a model for my politics. And I know, as we talked between us that, you are not attempting to make a statement for the entirety of it. But I guess I feel like at a certain point, somebody's legacy, or somebody does something that is so large, that it's tough to think about their legacy and take that out of it. And that's how I felt about him.
So I think I want to get at the right level of disagreement here. So I think one thing for me is that, I don't know, for me, the immediate hours after somebody is murdered in public, when you see that sort of grief and horror pouring out of the people who loved him, and many people loved him, my instinct then is to just sit with them in their grief, right? To say, I can, for this moment, find some way to grieve with you, to see your friend the way, or in some version of the way you saw him, right? That's not my view of, the person's whole legacy, but going to people when they're grieving like that and saying, listen, I want to tell you really what I thought of your friend. Just feels like not what you do in a kind of a...
You know what? Yeah. Ezra is right. It is pretty autistic. That immediately, when Kirk gets shot, it is a little retarded to go up to someone to be like, this guy was a bad guy. Look at all these clips. But also, Charlie Kirk wasn't even pronounced dead, and there was already a bunch of calls to violence, a bunch of calls to shut down Antifa, that the executive should use his powers to shut down these dangerous liberals, these dangerous Antifa liberals. Before Kirk even reached the hospital, these calls were already made. The grieving never happened. Maybe for 1 minute, 1 or 2 minutes. But the grieving never did happen. And it still hasn't happened. You can see the memorial. There's all these fireworks. There's all these voter registration tables, and that were all over the event. Constantly asking for not just making calls, but calls against blacks. And you're right, Jose. At his funeral service, also constantly asking for donations. Obviously, at the start of the podcast, they show clips of Trump just saying, "You know what? I hate these guys."
A community. I can see people coming down on both sides of that.
I actually think that actually is a great impulse, that after somebody's been killed, and not just killed, but because we live in the media environment that we live in, that it's seen and that it will live forever, and that person's family, you know what I mean?
That it was being looped in front of all of us.
Jesus Christ.
Which I think has a lot to do with how this was taken.
No, it's terrible. It's terrible. And to have to go, like to have young kids who have to grow up knowing that that is a thing that exists in the world. You know what I mean?
And I'll go one step further on this. One thing I wrote about in that piece that I do worry about is I worry we are already in a cycle of political violence, of mimetic violence. I think about Pelosi, I think about Shapiro, I think about the near assassination on Trump. I think about when after that happened, I thought about me, I thought about you, I thought about all kinds of people I know, right? So I do think there's just something about when violence takes hold that you like, that there's something about it that it begins to breach all lines.
Yeah. So
anyway,
I guess
that was part of my reaction too.
I think all of that is understandable, but I guess, was silence not an option?
Yeah, silence to me was not grieving with people. I felt it was important as someone who is liberal, as someone who has a voice, that there are moments like that. Like I really do feel, and it's funny because you said something like this in your piece, but it was a little bit more offhanded. That political violence like that is an attack on us all.
Right.
And that in that moment it creates, for me, even if it's very temporary, that it's important in a moment like that to sort of, come together, to try to see other people in their grief, to try to cool things down just a little bit. I guess, given everything you read that Charlie Kirk said, and we probably don't have very different views on the value of the things he said, why do you think he was winning?
I mean, that's not really hard for me to understand. I mean, if I could just back up for a second, I want to say two things. I published a book 10 years ago, Between the World and Me. And one of the constant reactions to that was that it was overly pessimistic about this country. It was overly pessimistic about the future. Why are you so dark, Ta-Nehisi? Why can't you give us any sense of hope? And the reason I would always say is because any sort of sober examination of the history of this country says that those of us who believe in equality, those of us who believe in respecting the humanity of our neighbors and of everyone, that we're up against some really, really powerful forces of history and powerful narratives. And the implication of that is, however good we felt in 2013, 14, 15, 2008, there will be backlash. People, those of us who were crying in 2008 watching Obama,
Most violence came from the right initially, like the phrase "white men fight back" before the identity of the shooter was confirmed. No coming together from the right for real. Here I go. Wait, hold on. Hold on, God. I'm bad at reading. Most violence came from the right initially, like with the phrase "white men fight back" before the identity of the shooter was confirmed. I don't think that was written the best, or maybe I'm not the best reader. But there is no coming together from the right. Obviously, an article we're gonna pull up Ezra. I don't know why I closed down their articles. But let's pull back up Ezra Klein's article where he starts listing out the political violence. I actually don't know. Nah, I don't use punctuation code. It's okay. I don't either, go. All right, let's start out with this 2021. Who is Gretchen Wilmer? All right, Democrat. All right, 2020. Plot to kidnap Democratic governor of Michigan was foiled by the right. Nothing about cooling down the temperature. Obviously, the 2021 effort on January 6th. For like the past 3 months, they were saying they are stealing your country. You gotta fight like hell. And that was the right was not turning down the temperature, what resulted in them storming the Capitol. in 2022, they broke into the house of Nancy Pelosi and fucked up Paul Pelosi. And no words came from the right about turning down the temperature. Instead, they were laughing about this 80-something-year-old man getting fucked up. Hold on. I'm pretty sure I got saved like a handful of quotes from back then. If I can find them real quick. Alright, I can only find one. But Donald Trump Jr., the son of Trump, I also posted this shit. Got my Paul Pelosi Halloween costume ready. And obviously, May or June this year, when two elected officials were shot in their home by a crazy right winger. And any comments from the president? Nothing. Absolute no comments from the president. So yeah, the right does not care.
I mean, give that speech. You know, those of us who were so moved by watching him and Michelle and step outside the car and felt so much fear for him, and then when nothing happened, felt so great about that. Those of us who believed that seeing a black family in the White House mirroring what, you know, some of us felt the best of us was, the best that we had to offer, there are other people watching that too. You know what I mean? And I don't take any joy in saying this, but we sometimes soothe ourselves by pointing out that love, acceptance, warmth, that these are powerful forces. I believe they are. I also believe hate is a powerful force. I believe it's a powerful, powerful unifying force. And I think Charlie Kirk was a hate monger.
Hey, and hate is a unifying force. Hate is the reason why Trump was elected in 2016. Why he was elected in 2024. All right, 2016, running against that all these immigrants are taking their jobs. They're all rapists. They're all criminals. Make America great again. We're gonna deport all these guys. We're gonna deport all these others. In 2024, all these trans people. MAGA is a platform of hate.
You know, I really need to say this over and over again. I have a politic that rejects violence, that rejects political violence. I take no joy in the killing of anyone, no matter what they said. But if you ask me what the truth of his life was, you know, and the truth of his public life, I would have to tell you it's hate. I'd have to tell you it is the usage of hate and the harnessing of hate towards political ends.
Then let me flip that question actually a bit. Why are we losing?
We're losing because there are always moments when we lose.
See, that feels very fatalistic to me.
It doesn't feel fatalistic to me. It feels like the truth. I mean, and let me express what I mean. I'm Ta-Nehisi Coates. I'm the writer. I'm the individual, right? But I am part of something larger, and I've always felt myself as part of something larger. I have a tradition. I have ancestry. I have heritage. What that means is that I do whatever I do within the time that I have in my life, whatever time I'm gifted with. And much of what I do is built on what other people did before then. And then after that, I leave the struggle where I leave it. And then hopefully it's in a better place. Oftentimes it's not. That's the history, in fact. And then my progeny pick it up and they keep it going. I am descended from people who in their lifetime fought with all their might for the destruction of chattel slavery in this country. And they never saw it. They never saw it. In my personal belief system, they died in, defeat, in darkness, And so I guess the privilege that I draw out of this, the honor that I draw out of this, is not that things will necessarily be better in my lifetime, but that I will make the contribution that I am supposed to make. The fact of the matter is, as horrifying as, that the killing of Charlie.
All right. Kind of rambles on. He doesn't answer. Doesn't answer Klein's question. Why are we losing? Because we are dog shit messengers. Also, yeah, it is messaging. It is also action. They did not take a firm stance on the Israel Palestine stuff.
Kirk was.
Yeah. And there is like a large feeling that the Democrats don't do anything for you. Like the past election wasn't lost because a bunch of people switched over. It's because a bunch of people didn't vote. A lot of people just lost confidence that Democrats can actually run. And they didn't vote. They stopped giving a fuck. They thought that that nothing would change.
And as horrifying as the feeling is, this moment that we are in, an era of political violence, and
that's because the Democratic Party don't do anything. Because it's full of establishment Democrats, for real. I mean, yeah, a little bit. Stream chat delay? What do you mean stream chat delay? How big is the delay? Okay, there is like a somewhat. Dude, I have set on the lowest possible latency. I wonder if there's something I can do on my fucking OBS. I don't know why I'm constantly hitting the Windows button. The Windows button is not what I want. Okay, I don't think there's anything I can do about the stream delay. I have it set on the lowest setting. I think it's only like 5 seconds, but it'll be okay. I feel like there was something else I wanted to say, but I forgot.
I don't want to sound flip here. Political violence is the norm for the Black experience in this country. It just is. I don't even mean like the Malcolm X, Martin Luther King variety of it, right? Which is the norm too. You would be hard pressed to have a conversation with a Black person in this country that is a descendant of slavery and not have them be able to reach maybe right here or to tell you themselves, look, my uncle, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, they lived in a small town in Mississippi, in Tennessee, in Alabama. They got into some sort of dispute with a white man, and either they were lynched or we had to run. Political violence runs through us. It is our heritage. Is that good? No. Do we valorize it? Absolutely not. Do we minimize it? Absolutely not. But a life free of it is not a thing that's really in reach in my time.
Sometimes I think that having a historical scope that wide can make the present too deterministic. So to me, I look at the last, 8, 12 years. And what I see having happened is we, the coalition I am in, the things I believe in, lost ground. And people determinedly worked to make that so. Charlie Kirk worked to make that so successfully, right? I think that when he began going to college campuses and putting out a sign at a table, what he was eventually going to build was not obvious, right? I think he worked. I think he was a successful political actor. And
what's the Wyatt? Within the last 10 seconds, what was the LY point? I'm replay it. Maybe I missed something. But he's saying, but Ezra Klein just said that in the past 10 years. Wait, hold on. I think I know the LY point. You don't like that there shouldn't be a focus on like the past shit. You're correct. Later on he's saying for like the last 10 years we've been losers. And we'll see what is like his next point is.
And at a table, what he was eventually going to build was not obvious, right? I think he worked. I think he was a successful political actor. And I think that from when in 2016 we lost to Donald Trump the first time, very narrowly, won the popular vote, right? And then in 2020, we almost lost to him and began seeing we were losing a bunch of voters we thought we were fighting for, right? Losing more working class voters, losing non-white voters, right? Something was changing, but we won, so okay. And then in 2024, we really got our asses handed to us. And we let a much more dangerous form of politics fully erupt. And I think that reflects strategic decisions they made. I think it reflects decisions we made. So I think for me, it's not enough to say we lost, their backlashes, sometimes you lose.
Yeah, you're right. 60 years isn't that far back.
I think it requires like a very fundamental rethinking, like a disciplined strategic rethinking of what have we been doing? Why are people preferring this to us? And I do think that is like, it opens up into something more that I think that there is a practice of politics here that in a narrow sense, I was talking about Kirk, but in a broad sense reflects to something that I thought was going to be an argument stretching across this show for like a year, right? I think more of it came out in this than I'd intended probably. But I think in many ways we've stopped doing politics. We've written a lot of people off. And in writing them off, we are losing and we are unable to protect ourselves, unable to protect them, just unable to make good change in the world.
Can you say more about that writing them off, please?
Yeah. Why don't we start it here if we want to talk about writing them off? I've been obsessing recently for a piece I've been writing.
All right. Ezra Klein is right that for the past 10, 15 years, Democrats have not been doing politics. And the right has been doing politics. Obviously, Ezra Klein wrote in this article that he was saying that MAGA was doing, well, that Kirk was doing politics the right way. Obviously, Mr. Coates, think he wasn't doing politics the right way, that he's a poison on our society. But Democrats have also not been doing politics. I don't know why I'm saying also. Democrats don't do politics. They do like social messaging for the past 10, 15 years. It's been only social messaging. Not anything else. There are people still alive who saw segregation in America, including all the presidents in the 2000s, excluding Obama. You're right, go.
About the Hillary Clinton deplorables comment, and I want to play it.
You know, to just be grossly generalistic, you could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables. Right? The racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it. And unfortunately, there are people like that. And he has lifted them up. He has given voice to their websites that used to only have 11,000 people, now have 11 million. He tweets and retweets. They're offensive, hateful, mean-spirited rhetoric. Now, some of those folks...
What is Klein going to argue? Is Klein going to argue that this is wrong?
What do you think when you hear that?
She probably shouldn't have said it.
But you think it's true?
I mean, it's probably not how I would say it, but, you know, I mean, there are things that I would say, you know. I probably didn't say what I said earlier
it is true.
In the interview about the force of, and I mean, as I've been saying this probably since as long as we've been talking.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm not, I just want to be clear about something. I shouldn't be running for president of the United States. You know what I mean? And my expectations for the rhetoric of writers, intellectuals, journalists, etc., is very, very different than what the expectations.
On God, Democrats should focus on being progressive and securing the left's vote, but they're trying to get the right's votes first. Like, I don't know how you get the vote of people that are okay with these, with black bagging, immigrants, skipping due process, and deporting people with no due process, sending people to El Salvador for no reason. Justifying, what is it? Racial profiling. Alright, the Supreme Court, recently, in the last few months, said it's okay to racially profile these fucking Hispanic, Latino people and skip due process, send them to countries they don't belong in. They've never been in. Send them to fucking Uganda. Send them to fucking concentration camps. Ignore what's happening in Palestine. 70% of the infrastructure. It's all fucking rubble. All these kids experiencing a famine. And you bring this up to the MAGA base, and they don't care. They don't even care to see their own life get better. They just want to see other people go through it worse.
Expectation should be for people who expect to hold office.
Yeah, so I agree with, right? I think that there are different jobs in all this. But when I say we began writing people off, I think that's something that happened. And I think something I saw in this debate, but kind of like underneath it, was that the work of politics, of bridging over a lot of profound, fundamental, moral disagreements, I think became somewhat demeaned, diminished. It began to seem like, in many cases, a betrayal to people. The tent shrunk. The people I feel more comfortable with wielding power shrunk. And I think what Clinton was saying there came from somewhere. It came from, the sort of culture that had emerged. It got worse over time. And then I think it really contributed to us losing. And meanwhile, this is why when I say, like in that initial piece, there was something that I respected in what Kirk was doing, like going in, having debates, using them opportunistically. A lot of people have thrown back at me that, he wasn't debating to find truth. Of course he wasn't debating to find the truth. He was doing politics. He was trying to persuade people. And I've watched on our side, not opportunistic engagement, but a lot of, I would say, counterproductive disengagement.
Would you like to see one of us put up a sign outside of, say, some white evangelical church in Alabama, debate me on abortion, and then use that content to say such and such smashes, church parishioner here, such and such owns church parishioner?
I would like to see.
Would you like? I would like to see
people on our side. Yeah, go to evangelical churches, go to places that feel unfriendly, have conversations. And look, I put things up on YouTube. They're fairly successful, not the best of the business. And I don't use, capital letters destroys in them. I think you can do it more aligned to hopefully our value structure.
It probably should be done. There should be some lefty or liberal that should be probably be going, that should be organizing these big things. But it's not really gonna matter. It is just like more content for like its own fan base. I don't know how important it is to really be putting out that type of content.
Our political approach, our political aesthetic, or at least the one that I believe in. I shouldn't overuse the term "our" here. But we weren't doing that either.
I don't know that we weren't. I know for instance, I have. I don't know if it's on YouTube anymore. But I received an invitation, for instance, I think about when I went up to West Point and I had to go up there and talk about Between the World and Me. I had to challenge them very, very directly about what it meant to have, at that time, Confederate memorials up there, and to, talk about, a Confederate, I can't remember, what the motto is exactly, but basically it's an argument against lying and what it meant, to have that there and have those grand historical lies. I mean, we had a really, really great interaction. I don't know that, I know everybody didn't agree with me. It would never occur to me, and I think it actually insults the dialogue to take that and say, Ta-Nehisi owns West Point cadets.
Do you really not recognize the kind of culture I'm talking about here? Like, really?
Say more. No, what do you mean?
I think there really was a move towards the sort of approach Clinton is offering here. I think we began to pull back. I really do.
But maybe it would help if you define the we.
I will define the we, right? Because I actually think this is a
help.
very hard thing about talking about political parties,
Right.
because they're diffuse.
Right.
Right? It's a lot of people doing a lot of things all at once. But I think of the huge backlash to Bernie Sanders for going on Joe Rogan's show because Rogan was transphobic, right? Such a big backlash that when I defended him, I became myself a Twitter trending topic.
Right.
To Elizabeth Warren for going on Bill Maher's show. Bill Maher's Islamophobic. Right. There were protests at Netflix when they brought on Dave Chappelle. Right. I think there was a politics of content moderation that took hold that was more about enforcing boundaries of what, were and were not ideas we should be engaged with, than about engaging with them, again, even if opportunistically. And when I go back to something I was saying to you a minute ago, I am in a process right now of thinking we failed, right? We lost. The loss is having terrible consequences. What do we need to rethink? How do we become competitive again in places where we're not? And I think there is something in here. Do people feel like, even if they disagree with us on some things, that they have a place with us? And my experience going around the country, talking to people, I've been on a lot of, right of center podcasts lately, is that, rightly or wrongly, like what they took and something that really empowered Trump in the last election.
It's engaging them as equal argument that people have issues with, for real. It's engaging them as an equal argument that people go, I don't know what that means. Maybe I'm retarded. I don't know what that means, go. It's engaging them as equal argument that people have. I don't know what that means. Why you type it out? Ezra Klein is kind of right, and I'm gonna assume Coates also agrees with Ezra on the point that that the constant bitching about Bernie going on Joe Rogan is bad. Bitching that who else? Elizabeth Warren went on Bill Maher. Bitching about Netflix going on about Netflix doing a special with Dave Chappelle. All of that is wrong because it's not politics. It is just social signaling. That's like the problem with it, and I'm assuming Mr. Coates agrees.
Was a sense that they didn't, and like we were against them, and if so, they were going to be against us. And I think that's, in the end, doing politics badly.
So I think two things. I think about how much you argued that, like, Biden shouldn't run again. What if he doesn't earlier and you have a Democrat who wins the presidency? You know, like, there are other big explainers that I can see for it. You know what I mean? That don't feel so diffuse. You know, the other thing is, and I know you don't want to talk historically, but, you know, when you say fatalism, like, I take that to mean that what's the point of fighting? But I think that misapprehends the philosophy here. It's not that you know what's going to happen. It's not that you know Donald Trump is going to, it's that you don't underestimate what you are up against. You know, it's actually kind of the opposite. I mean, man, you yourself wrote these articles about how high the level of racial resentment was. That this country, or some segment of it, was so, as the term was used at the time, racially resentful. I call it racist, but racist, that it flooded down to Barack Obama's dog, Bo. Mm-hmm. That's not a small amount of power. Like, that's not a small force. And so, you know, just really quickly getting back to Charlie Kirk, like, I would watch those clips of him saying those things, man, and I would see how people would cheer and get charged by it. People get activated by hate. It's a very, very, very strong force. And so I don't think it requires you to feel that you will eventually lose. On the contrary, I think it requires you to feel that even if you do lose, you have this kind of steadfastness. You know what I mean? To keep going.
I don't think Ezra's arguing against that. In today's super
competitive business environment, the edge goes to...
This is a great point.
By Ookla of Speed Test Intelligence.
Really saw it. So I think this is a great point. And I think I really saw it, in some ways more in Trump's first term, but I see it now too. Which is the worse, from your perspective, my perspective, the other side gets, the more people want their reaction to sort of be, and their strategy to be emotionally consonant with how they're feeling about it. Mm. Because these people are so bad, there can be no quarter, right? I had somebody we both know, I'll say an eminent academic of one form or another, email me after these pieces and just say to me, like, we are not on the same side anymore, right? The what I was doing, it was too far, right? Like, we are just not on the same side, if I could say these things. Mm-hmm. I have a feeling right now that we are closer to genuine national rupture. Certainly we've been in my lifetime, right? The idea that this experiment, that America could topple into something else, into something much worse, into some kind of new extended regime, feels very real to me, right? I remember when I was on the Why We're Polarized book tour.
They're not really making arguments here.
You did, yeah. The end of that book is this recitation of what happened in the 1960s, the political assassinations, the violence in the streets, like what the state was doing, what was happening. But on the book tour, what I would say is my nightmare scenario is that level of violence and fracture with these kinds of parties, where politics is not for all of its flaws, a calming force, because like the views are diffuse across the two parties, but an accelerant. And I think we're much more now in the world I was fearing. Okay, so I think it should make you think, okay, what is some kind of de-escalation before you get to rupture look like? But the other is that there are a lot of people who live in places we used to win not that long ago. So I've been thinking about Obamacare. When Obamacare passes, there are
All right, before they continue on, Ezra Klein just argued that we are closer to a national rupture than we ever have, at least in his lifetime, and I guess ours as well, which is true, and that there should be some form of de-escalation, but that form of de-escalation shouldn't be coming from the left; it should be coming from the right. I don't think the next moves should be focusing on trying to de-escalate the country. When the right knows that aggressively turning up the temperature is working for them.
Democratic senators in Arkansas, in Louisiana, in West Virginia, in Missouri, in Indiana, in North Carolina, in South Dakota, in North Dakota. And I've been thinking that I think for a lot of us, to twist the line about capitalism, it has become easier to imagine the end of the country than winning a Senate seat in Missouri or Arkansas. And I think that's a problem.
Yeah. So I think
I don't know why he's bringing up North Carolina in this example. When for what the past 9 years for the past 9 years during this Trump era. Recently, our new the governor that was elected in 2024. The fuck's his name? Stein. I think it's Stein something. Shit. I think canvassing for this guy. Hold on. NC governor. It's something Stein. Josh Stein, Democrat, elected in 2024. Previously before him, Governor Roy Cooper, who's also running for a Senate seat. Both these two guys won their elections here in North Carolina during the Trump era. And I think, and every year in the past 3 elections when Trump was on the ballot, Trump won the North Carolina seat. It is more of the people here just think Democrats on a federal level are just a bunch of fucking losers.
A couple things about that. First of all, I just want to bring in the historical perspective. Not that long ago, I can remember when Obama won. And I believe you would remember this too. And there were all of these pieces about the end of conservatism and the end of the Republican Party. You don't know how it's going to go. Nobody really, it doesn't mean you shouldn't think about how it's going to go. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but no one really, I mean, again,
And in 2005, there were all these pieces about the end of the Democratic Party.
Yes, it was.
Right? Democrats had lost touch with the heartland.
Yeah.
Right? They were never going to get it back.
That's right. And so I think it's always like important to keep that in the background. Look, I have, just in terms of bridging gaps and everything, I have a basic level of respect that I accord to everybody. You know what I mean? I want to say what I have to say. I don't want to shrink back from it. You know what I mean? But I do think on a basic level, there's a respect that has to be had for people that I disagree with, right? At the same time, I recognize that part of my audience, and I would say an important part of my audience, is people who have never enjoyed that respect. You know what I mean? People who, in fact, are subjects of the kind of hate that Charlie Kirk was harvesting. And I can't ever, A, contribute to making them feel like they've been abandoned. And B, I can't ever stand by and watch somebody do that. And in the name of unity or whatever, act like that's not happening. Because there are real consequences. And so it's like, when I read his words towards trans people, Jesus. When I read, you know what I mean, the language towards Haitians specifically, which was very, very, Haitians will become your masters if you don't elect Trump. I mean, this is very, very familiar to me. You know, it's this idea of Haitians coming into the country or immigrants raping your daughters. I mean, this was really, really, really dark stuff. It's at the core of this country. And so I feel like for Haitian immigrants that are in, Ohio, who are living under the weight of this, for trans kids who, you know what I mean, are dealing with, being, I don't even want to use the term bullied, beaten up, attacked, threatened. You know what I mean? It's very, very important to me, given the post I have, to say, I see you, but also, this dude was wrong. And I'm all for unifying, I'm all for bridging gaps, but not at the expense of my neighbor's humanity. I just can't.
I think the thing we go to there. Right?
I mean, yeah, he's right. There should be a bridging of humanity on a human level. Obviously, you should condemn political violence. And also feel bad for the people affected by the political violence. But the way you go about that isn't by saying, Kirk did politics the right way, when he definitely wasn't doing politics the right way.
Right, not at the expense of my neighbor's humanity. Because I've gotten a lot of that in email, right? Like, how am I supposed to talk to these people? How am I supposed to deal with these people who are denying my humanity?
I'm not against talking to them about it. I'll talk to you very clearly.
Yeah, sure.
I have no problem with that.
I guess the place where I'm not.
I mean, yeah, he's right. Just because someone is doing politics the wrong way doesn't mean you should ignore them. You should be confronting them. You should be applying pressure to them. You should be constantly reaching out for them to actually defend their points. So W Black in chat.
I'm not even 100% sure if we disagree, if you just like sort of see your role differently, right? I think that in losing as badly as we have imperiled trans people terribly.
Yes.
Politics is for power.
Joe Biden did that.
Politics is for power. And so I think that the question I am just genuinely struggling with isn't how to have like a great kumbaya moment. But I think it is taking seriously that something we're doing is not working. I mean, I had Sarah McBride, who's the first trans member of Congress on the show. And, we were talking about every single survey you can offer on like trans rights has gone in the wrong direction the past couple of years, right? We've just begun to lose that argument terribly. And that has put people in real danger. So I take your point when you say, look, I want people to feel seen in my writing. And I want people to feel seen in my writing and my podcasting. But I think the place I'm trying to push towards is I think that there is a diminishment of the political coalition building that we now need to do, because we have come to the view that a pretty wide variety of people are in some ways kind of deplorables. I think it's weakened a bit in the last couple of years.
I would never use that language. Jesus Christ.
But
like, that's not...
What did he say?
Come to the view that a pretty wide variety of people are in some ways kind of deplorables. I think it's weakened a bit in the last couple of years.
I would never use that language. Jesus Christ.
But...
Like, that's not... So when you ask me about that Hillary Clinton, that's what... Like, I would never say it like that.
That's great. I think it's good that you wouldn't say it like that, but and I'm not saying...
I don't even think that, by the way. Like, right. I don't even focus on people that... Look, I am at war with certain ideologies and ideas, and I want them expunged. I want to turn them into phrenology. That's what I want. But I don't want the people, you know what I mean, out. Like, when you start talking about who people are and their bones, like that...
So in a way, I'm not sure. I mean, in a way, I think we're saying something not too dissimilar here. I guess the place where I felt a lot of pushback, and maybe this was not your pushback, right? Was, the first piece I can just sort of, like, I accept that there's a disagreement on like what to do in the 24 hours after a death. Like, you feel like I was whitewashing the guy, and I felt like I was sort of...
do.
Yeah, I know you do. I know you do.
It's very upsetting.
I know you do. The second piece I did, which I think you saw, was more about this question of what are we going to do living here in sort of two types of disagreement, right? One with a right that where Charlie Kirk has become sort of the center of it, right? He's not unusual for the MAGA coalition. He's a sort of uniting force within it, and the kind of things he believed and the way he did his politics. And then two, what are we going to do? Like, how are we going to be here with people who are like halfway there, right? What does it mean to be in this political community together? What do you think about that question?
About how to live together?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I think it's a truth. You know what I mean? I think it's it's a foregone, like we are. I really, really believe that, There's no real choice about this. I'm not renouncing my American citizenship. They're not renouncing their American citizenship. So this then, as far as I'm concerned, is a contest of ideas and narratives. Again, all I can go to is my role as a writer. And my role as a writer is to state things as clearly as I possibly can, to make them in such a way that they haunt, to state truths and to reinforce probably the animating notion of my politics, and that is that all humanity is equal and is worthy of that. And I actually think all of the sort of political and policy positions are, that I probably find myself in sympathy with, are attempting to affect that, in the real world. And again, I'm putting aside your piece, but I'm just thinking about the moment we're in. When I hear or see people who are honored and commemorated in such a way so that they almost become a national religious figure, and then I see their content, and I see that their content is actively destructive to humanity, I have to draw a line there. Like, I think, like, for me, like, the bigger question is, where are the lines? You know what I mean? And I think there's no problem with saying, listen, you can't hurl epithets at people. You're out if you do that. I'm sorry. Look, you want to have a debate about whether we should have affirmative action, in colleges? I'm here for it. You want to have a debate?
What does it mean to be on the other side of the line?
I'm sorry, what do you mean?
What does it mean? So once somebody's on the other side of the line,
right? What
does that mean for you?
For instance, once you think it's okay.
No.
No, I'm trying to make this concrete.
Yeah, no, I am too.
Yes.
Once, for whatever the definition of the line is.
Right.
What does it mean for you for somebody to be on the other side of it? Right? Not somebody who just died.
Right.
But somebody still living.
Right. If you think it is okay to dehumanize people, then conversation between you and I is probably not possible.
And so what do you do with the fact that so many people think that is okay?
I think what you try to do is, again, this is the difference, right? Like, I don't necessarily.
No, I think Mr. Coates is wrong. Think if there's someone that is dehumanizing someone, you should probably hit them more. You should probably critique them more and even have a conversation with them. Obviously, the conversation probably shouldn't be like a soy little, you ain't blank, and just like completely soy out. But you should be pressuring these guys. A lot of these guys probably will run from any conversation, but you should be constantly pressurizing, people saying that it's okay to be black bagging immigrants, to be racially profiling people. You should be applying pressure, and you should be trying to have a conversation with these people. I don't know. I don't know if I'm expressing that correctly. But that is probably, you shouldn't be friendly to them. I think that's clear. And you shouldn't respect them. But you should be reaching out and try to message to their audience. Because obviously, if they're already dehumanizing someone, you're probably not going to change their mind. But you should be planting seeds into the other people's audience. And even to your audience. Like, your audience would probably like to see you go after these people.
The crystal ball to say that in this time, I'm going to be able to convince a majority of people that, for instance, let's just take the thing that's hot right now. Trans folks are human beings and deserve humanity. Although I think most people know that you shouldn't say what he said. Like, that shit is rude. It's just rude to talk to people like that. And I think most people know that. So as I'm thinking my way through the question, I actually think that's not a hard line to draw. I think not calling people out of their name, I think that's actually a basic value that most people have. And I think people who think it's not, who are pushing that, are actually themselves on the other side of the line.
But so I want to hold on this for a minute, because I do think this is like a very
and that's
core
different
question.
From policy, Ezra.
Yeah, I understand it's different than policy.
That's different than policy.
I think that one just reality is the president of the United States is a person who, in his comportment as a human being on the public stage, I would have said in 08, in 12, in 16 should be on the other side of the line.
Yeah.
I think he's a person who does not act with any sense of public or even personal decency.
Right.
And then he won in 16, lost sort of narrowly in 20 and then won in 2024. And I think the thing that has led to for me is recognizing that I don't get to draw the line. Now, it doesn't mean I don't have one in my own heart, but I think that is the thing that I am struggling with, which is not only is he clearly for most people, or a lot of people, plurality of the voters in the last election, not somehow way over the line, but like, that means it's a lot of people who are willing to accept things that I thought we would have found unacceptable. Like if you had told me, like I would have thought that the way he acts in public is unacceptable, and it's not. And so I think for me, and this goes back to maybe the culture that you feel didn't exist, but I feel did, that there was a view that we could sort of work with politics with drawing these lines, that there were people going to be inside them and outside them, and we could work that way. And I think that I am like working with the question of what happens if you don't believe that, if you don't control the line. What I see is any line that existed at all collapsing. So I'm watching like Holocaust revisionism on like the biggest right-wing podcasts. Right. I'm watching Tucker Carlson like turn into, what I would describe as a white nationalist and become an absolute dominant force on the right, like bigger than he ever was in his, smarmy libertarian phase. And this stuff has real appeal, like as you said, right? That's not a surprise on some level. It's just something you have to deal with. And so that's where this question of the line drawing, like I have lines of what I think should and should not be acceptable, but those lines clearly have no relationship to my country, the politics. And I think I've been asking the question without really having an answer. I want to be honest about this. Of what follows from that?
I think you do have a line. I think
I'm sure I do.
I think there are things, for instance, that I could say that would make you say it's no point in Ta-Nehisi coming up on and being on this podcast. And likewise, there are things you could say, obviously, that I would say it's no point in me talking to Ezra.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm saying what happens if 35% of the country, 40% of the country, the dominant political force in the country is inside that? Does that change anything? Or no, like the line just holds?
No, I mean, welcome to Black America. That's our history. The line we have drawn in general has not been majoritarian politics, unfortunately. That's just been what it is. And at the times that it's been majoritarian politics, people have done things and, fiddled with government or done, extremely violent things to make it not so, How
do you deal in that answer? Like, how do you deal with Trump really substantially increasing his share of the black vote?
Actually, I think where he is about where actually Republicans tended to be before Barack Obama. So I'm a little less. I mean, there's a conservative portion of our community that's always voted Republican. And I think, obviously, I think sexism is a very, very real force. I don't think it's completely explanatory, but the idea that there is, say, 20% of black men who are fundamentally conservative, that doesn't really surprise me too much.
But I guess let's take, because I think this is a hard case. I think from your perspective and from my perspective, where we probably don't believe hugely different things, a huge amount of the country, right? A majority of the country believes things about trans people, about what policy should be towards trans people, about what language is acceptable to trans people, that like we would see as fundamentally and morally wrong.
Right.
And what politically, not in a column or something, but politically, should our relationship with those people be? Do we win them over? Do we compromise with them? Like, this feels like a very salient question. The Republican Party is going to make sure this is a relentlessly salient question.
Right.
So
I agree with that.
Where does the approach leave us, right? Where do we go on that?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. Look, I think a couple things. I think, again, look, my tradition is the only thing I have a reference point for, so I'm sorry to keep going back to this. But when I look at the times that we have lost, if I think specifically about the Black tradition, for instance, it's hard for me to say politically they did something wrong. You know what I mean? Like, Reconstruction falls. What was the thing that should have been done? On the contrary, I see, a kind of courage that I wish we had today in a lot of people. You know what I mean? I see people willing to die and take bullets all the time. You know what I mean? What more could Ida B. Wells have done, to get the anti-lynching bill passed? I mean, here is somebody that, was banished from Tennessee on threat of being killed after she saw her friends, murdered and lynched. And one of the things I will say is, when I look back at that long tradition, and I look back in the times that people have won and the places they've won, it's often not been their heroism that was the decisive factor ultimately. It's often not been their strategy that was the decisive factor. Folks look back at the civil rights movement, for instance, and they talk about how brilliant it was to do the sit-ins and, use mass media in the way that Martin Luther King used mass media, the appearance. All of that's true. But if we don't have World War II, and the planet does not get a view of how horrific it can be when you decide you're going to eliminate people based on their traits, civil rights movement happened? I don't know.
I don't know. I'd have to read more, but I feel like even now there's like, I don't think people I don't think it like directly correlates. You could see with like the Ukraine and Palestine stuff. A lot of people are outspoken about the Ukraine stuff. But then when it comes to Palestine, it's not as much. And obviously, yeah, the Palestinians are probably bigger victims, the worst crimes, and the same crowd that supports a lot of the Ukrainians won't show that same support to the Palestinians. I don't know how true for America back in World War II to see what happened to the Jews and then look over at black people and be like, maybe we should be treating them better.
I think
I don't think Mr. Coates is right on that.
Open and close. And so I think some of this is up to the decisions that politicians make. I think some of it is also up to what is happening in the broader mass culture at the time. I think all this kind of, works together. I'm not against, this kind of strategizing. That I think that has to happen. But I think you also have to recognize like how broad the world is when you say politics.
In today's super competitive business environment, the edge
that you have actually, I think, been a very prime mover in this. We have
coverage. That's coverage. The 1H 2020.
I think there's been a period, particularly on the left, in which the Civil War, pre it, post it, the writings of that time, the people of that time, have become a sort of a rooting period, a place where we sort of go back and look and think about who are we, what was revealed about us. I'm taking nothing away from that.
Right.
But that's obviously a period where politics ultimately fails. I actually think, and I've thought about this a lot in reaction I have read in the last couple of weeks, I've thought a lot about how many people believe we are already in a cold civil war. That we are in a time that we are dealing with divisions and questions. I see it on the right, for sure. I hear it on the left. I have a lot of email that's like, we need a national divorce. How that's going to be effectuated, never exactly clear.
Do people
they do use that.
Do people you respect say that to you?
Well, yes, actually, I will say that. But I'm not going to, people say things to me that are off the record and I shouldn't say it. But you don't believe that though, right? You don't believe we are at a point. I think this is really important. I was curious what you would say to this question. You don't believe we are at a point where the next 10, 20, 30 years can't be shaped by decisions we would understand as within normal politics, within elections and legislation and organizing and so on.
No.
Good. I think that's great.
I mean, look, that could happen.
Yeah.
That could happen. But I guess the
obviously,
thing I am thinking about is how much does this era stand out in the long sweep of American history?
Yeah.
It's bad.
Well, so this is actually...
But it wouldn't make my list for the worst.
No, I agree with you. I'm where you are on this, to just be super clear.
Okay.
But I actually think one reason then the amount we focus on the Civil War period is tricky is because that's a period when it didn't work like that, right? You actually had to go over the cliff of that and have the war. I've been thinking a lot about, because I've been reading a lot about McCarthyism. So I've been thinking about that whole period. And you just sort of brought up the World War II as, sort of a generator of the politics that allows us to have the Great Society, the Civil Rights Act, et cetera. I think another way of sort of glossing that is you have the rise of Red Scare politics, which predate McCarthy. You have Joseph McCarthy, who is just for a period an unbelievably dominant force.
It's insane.
Everybody who challenges him loses.
That's right.
He becomes a complete kingmaker. He's eventually boxed out and beaten by Dwight Eisenhower, a sort of center-right, very, very anti-communist politician, but who can sort of take the center from McCarthy. But then it's like, what happens next? Nixon, who is the genteel red baiter to McCarthy's non-genteel red baiter, runs in the next election. He's beaten by JFK, who's a very center-left, very anti-communist, sort of runs to Nixon's right on communism. And he does it with Lyndon Johnson, on the bottom of the ticket, sort of representing Southern politics in the Democratic Party. It's a very, very, in a way, checkered series of moves that are accepting huge amounts of McCarthyism at that time. And yet it does sort of lead to political power that is wielded in a very, very...
I just realized how messed up my camera is. Hold on. Let me fix it. You can see the back of my monitor. What the hell? Alright. That should be better.
A different way within fairly short order. I take from this, I've been thinking about this because I think we're sort of in a new McCarthyism, some lessons on how politics can work and like the give and the take of it. We've been sort of brought up the Civil War a bunch, but what do you take from this period?
I take something that we've kind of been circling for this entire conversation, which is that the role of politicians and the role of writers, intellectuals, et cetera, is very, very different. Politicians do things that I wouldn't do. I don't, for instance, I don't hold JFK or RFK up, you know what I mean, as the people
me neither.
Right. yeah.
I'm not a fan of JFK Camelot revisionism.
But I guess
it's not a very good president.
That's like a separate thing from whether, you know what I mean, why politics happens the way they do. Let me give you an instance that often also comes up. That's not the Civil War, and that's the New Deal, right? Like, I think there is a pretty strong argument that the New Deal not a strong argument, but it's pretty clear that the New Deal did quite a bit to create the social safety net, create an American middle class, right? That's true. Did FDR want to, in his heart, exclude black folks in the way that they were excluded from it? No. That was the price of getting the thing done. I understand that as politics. But were I there in that time, it would be incumbent on me to yell at FDR to not do that. I just think that's really, 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 really important. We don't all have the same role. When I wrote Case for Reparations, it was not my expectation Nor did I even think it would be politically intelligent for like Barack Obama to go up and yell, "I'm for reparations." You know what I mean? But that's different than, you know what I mean, my role.
I guess the substructure of a bunch of what I am saying, which may or may not be in argument with you. It's just when I texted you to come on, I was like, I've been thinking about what the underlying arguments are here. So you're kind of getting this spilling out of my brain. I think that there is a work of politics that for a bunch of different reasons has become demeaned. And I think, and this does not speak well of the people, so to speak, in power doing it, but I think that they are not doing it well. I think the culture around them, I think politicians are not always leaders. I think they're often followers. And I think that the idea that kind of political coalition building across these gigantic differences, building across public opinion, both not just as you wish it existed, but as it exists, has become, seen and like treated as often betrayal, cowardice, moral fallibility. It's not, I think it's fine to say people got different roles. And in fact, it's good for intellectuals to criticize the politicians. But my view is that the political practice became too weak. I don't think that was true for Obama. I went back.
God, we got a little bit left.
And I read your piece.
Hopefully,
my president was black. It's a beautiful piece.
Thank you.
And it's very much in this tension, right? Where you say quite a bit, like, it would have been a bad idea for Barack Obama to say the things I am saying here.
Yeah.
To do the things in some ways I wish he had done. It would have been, that politics wouldn't have worked. There would have been no Obama presidency, and his presidency would not have been successful. And I think I've been thinking about that line, right? In my own work and just in the political culture as I see it, that line between the sort of intellectual, analytical work and the actual like work of politics, the how do we live here with each other work, right? Which I think is actually honorable work. And I think feels right now to me like morally urgent and necessary. And not just over disagreement, just the whole thing being done in a strategic and disciplined sense. I think one of the things I've thought about is the need to actually raise the status of just like old-fashioned politics. And I think I've been surprised to find myself feeling that way. But I think one way the second Trump term has changed me is I don't, and maybe you always believe this, right? I'm not putting this on you. I think what got built, for all of its flaws in the back half of the 20th century, was much more fragile than I'd understood. Not just like the legislation or any of that, but the actual sense of like what you could and could not do, what we would and would not accept. And I've just like the sense that we can just tumble all the way back has become much more real to me. And so the work that people did to begin to build those guardrails and like how hard that actually was, and the disappointment we eventually felt. I feel like we began to take something actually quite beautiful for granted, or only see what wasn't there as opposed to what was. And it's forced a little bit of, for me, like, how did they do it? How did they get out of the last one of these?
I'll just say, and I think I'm speaking for a broader community here. We are not happy, but we are not surprised, man. And again, the reason why we go back to Reconstruction and the Civil War is because it is, before the 1960s, the only glimpse at the possibility of a real democracy in this country. And it happened. And in some places, it was actually quite successful.
There is no gameplay. We won't have gameplay. No gameplay. I don't know what gameplay do you want? I'm not gonna do Expedition. That's not happening. Not gonna do rematch. I'm not gonna boot up my City Skylines because it's gonna crash my PC. All right, it's gonna be L stream when the stream goes down. I don't play FM anymore. I'm waiting for FM 26. I don't even have FM24 downloaded anymore. And that also isn't really that isn't a good streaming game, because I gotta be locked in on that game. There's no game unless you want me to I don't know, man. Unless you want me to play like Snake or something. Not Snake. What's that other game? Like the Slither.io? Where are we gonna put this? Let me pull up my OBS. I don't know where my camera actually is. We'll put it around there. And then we'll do that. We'll do that. Where is the poker game for it? Bro, I'm not... I'm not playing damn poker. What should my name be? What should my name be, chat?
You have people who, had been enslaved, who are written off as illiterate fools, who are, serving in legislatures. And actually, with the standard of the time, actually, it's such a hopeful, incredible story. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And it was violently destroyed. Once you see that, and once you have that in your heritage, once you understand that, once you understand that Martin Luther King could be standing up, telling his own people, we do not embrace violence at all. It is morally repugnant. We embrace love. And that could get you shot. Not burn it down. Love can get you shot. You just have a different view of your country. It is not, I emphasize this over and over again, it is not a fatalistic view. It is not, it is written in stone that we will ultimately lose, but
I don't think Ezra Klein disagrees with that.
What does that, there's a Buddhist meditation I like. This is a weird place to go. But it goes like this. I'm of the nature to grow sick. I'm of the nature to grow old. I'm of the nature to lose the people I love. I'm of the nature to die. How then shall I live? And
love that.
Yeah, I do it because sometimes you need the reminder. Yeah. What I hear you saying in a way is we are of the nature too.
Yeah.
And I think the place I'm trying to push is then, how then shall we live? Because in this distinction you're making between, like, you would have been there correctly yelling at FDR. And I'm not asking you, but me, right? My work, my role.
Can you answer that? Can you say what I think is a good point. Would you would you define for me how you see, what your role is?
I don't know what my role is anymore. I'll be totally honest with you, man. I feel very conflicted about that question. The role I want to have is a person curiously exploring
his role should be to be pulling his policies he believes in.
And
to call awareness to the problems the country
is sometimes that.
the country faces.
But I am in the business. I'm a political opinion writer and podcaster and so on. And I'm in the business of political persuasion. And I feel like me and the people who believe what I believe, not narrowly speaking, but, the whole broad coalition, have failed in a really consequential way. And I think it is...
You feel like you failed in your work?
I think there are places I failed. I mean, I think there are things I got right too. I think we shouldn't have run Joe Biden again. I think I was right about that.
No shit.
I think I've gotten a lot right.
I think that was obvious.
But I think I've gotten definitely things wrong. But I think we are here now, right? That's what I would really say. And it is forcing me.
I would like for Ezra to say that he was wrong about Charlie Kirk doing politics the right way. I think Ezra is right that you shouldn't be running from people that have politics you don't respect. think that's true from Ezra. But but I think Ezra needs to admit that he did whitewash Kirk's legacy.
To rethink things I would prefer not to rethink. I will give you an example because people are mad at me on this one right now.
Please.
I said in a podcast with my colleague Russ Douth that he was pushing me on left radicalism. I was saying, I don't care about left-wing radicalism. I don't think it's some great threat. I don't think it's a huge political problem. I worry about left-wing pessimism, fatalism, that we are losing and don't want to change anything. And I said that the question for me is, how do we win Senate seats in places like Kansas and Missouri and Ohio? I said, I would like to see us doing things like in red states, and here I meant redder than those, running pro-life candidates. People got real upset about that, and I get why. But in 2000...
The focus should be... Oh, W Streamer, the Nexus on. Yes, for real. The focus should be on running candidates that are gonna win. Candidates that are good at messaging. Candidates like Madami. Candidates like Newsom. People that can message and also work together. That should be the focus. Obviously, if the candidate that's probably gonna win is pro-life, you should apply pressure to that candidate to probably switch their views, or to the minimum where they don't set new restrictions to abortions and things. But let's see how the other guy responds.
2010, when the Affordable Care Act passed, there were 40 House Democrats who were pro-life at some level. You had to do this whole negotiation with this guy, Bart Stupak.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. And on the bright side, you don't have to have those negotiations now. And on the downside, you can't pass the Affordable Care Act. And the point is not that issue, right? That one issue, although things like, the example, say, Susan Collins, where she's in theory pro-choice, but she votes for Mitch McConnell and John Thune as leader. Right. That's how you build power on some level, right? If you have those, Joe Manchin, I wish he were still a senator from West Virginia, as much as I have deep disagreements with him. I think that I am a person, I think you are a person, whether you admit it or not, who is one of the people with a, voice in shaping what our political culture is. And I believe at some level that political strategy is downstream from political culture. I think it means exploring things that are uncomfortable and being pretty disciplined in a way maybe I haven't been, about separating the question of what I believe from what I believe will win power. Because I currently think that the cost of losing power is horrifying and dangerous.
Yeah.
And we can't keep doing it. So that's
where my head is. Can we stay with that exactly? Because the immediate thing, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the immediate thing that springs to mind for me in that question is not who you're abandoning, but how do you square the fact that, in fact, reproductive rights has proven to be pretty popular in red states. And I'm thinking about referendums that have been passed such that they've had to, change the rules. How do you separate that?
When I sort of said this in glancingly.
There are people who didn't vote for Kamala, but give me my reproductive rights.
I think that I was using first pro-life as an illustrative example. Okay. But there are many red districts in this country. And there are states that we do not even think about competing in anymore, right? I'm not talking about Ohio here. I think you have to try things. By the way, not only moderation kind of things. You could try going much harder on economic populism, which some people are trying. I think you might need to combine those two strategies, right? Which is sort of the Dan Osborne in Nebraska approach. I think that I think even before the question of what your policies are, and I believe this very deeply, there's a question of whether or not people feel like you respect them and like them, even if they disagree with you. Before I think people will give you power, They don't even ask, do they like you? They ask whether you like them. And I think a lot of the country feels we don't like them. Not only do I believe that, I know that. I've seen the focus groups. I've seen the survey data. I've talked to the people who work on this. And that's going to require...
But that's not... I don't think the main reason why a lot of people feel like, well, I don't know. I think it's pretty 50 on like the responsibility on why people feel like they don't belong to the Democratic Party. I think it is like 50% of like the woke scolding from the left that alienates and it's also like the ramped up rhetoric from the right and from Trump that's also responsible for that feeling going around. Usually that feeling usually just discourages them from participating in politics.
Changing that is going to require making moves that somehow send a loud enough signal that people begin to think we have changed it at some level. Sherrod Brown should be able to win in Ohio.
Yes.
The reason he cannot win in Ohio is the Democratic Party itself is a millstone around his neck that drags him down. So what do you do about I'm not here to tell you I got the answer.
Yeah.
What I would feel much better about is if I felt there was like a strategic discipline about finding it.
So I just if you will take this very gentle pushback.
Yeah, please.
I think
you're here for it.
I haven't seen exactly what people are saying, online in terms of this, but I do think like what immediately strikes me is if you take, I know you would just, it's not, the example necessarily that you would hold out, about reproductive rights, but I think the problem with musing about that is abandoning it is a very real possibility for people who don't have the option necessarily to fly to another state or do X, Y, and Z. So I suspect when they hear somebody of your status, even if it's not the example you mean, putting it out in the air, like they feel. And
I mean, yeah, but if the other option is losing,
actually, I don't necessarily even mean that one.
No,
like if you're gonna say that, I think you really gotta.
I'll stand behind it.
You gotta put the data behind it. I think that's really, really important.
I will say, and I think this is actually the nub of it, right? Okay. Like I'm glad we're sort of here. I am saying the thing it sounds like I am saying. To be very, very clear.
Right.
I think in a place like Nebraska, you should try to run some pro-life Democrats. I wish people, instead of saying that an expressive or strategic question in politics was betraying or abandoning the people we wish to protect, I wish what we said was we lost power in a way that allowed Donald Trump to drive the Supreme Court to a 6-3 Republican majority. And that majority overturned Roe v. Wade. Right. It overturned Roe v. Wade and actually abandoned all these people. Right. Actually fucked them over. Right?
Right.
It is part of, I think, when I say that like the work of politics has become diminished, it is part of how that happened, that talking about this creates this sort of counter argument. Well, even to discuss it is to abandon. In 2008, as you and I both know, Barack Obama ran as a public opponent of gay marriage.
Right.
He ran opposed to it.
Right.
At a time when not only, I won't speak for you, was I not opposed to it, but most of us did not, most of us did not think he was opposed to it.
Right.
Like at his heart, we did not think he was opposed to it.
Right.
But he was playing politics.
Right.
That playing of politics allowed him to name Supreme Court justices, and that led to the decision that created a constitutional right to same-sex marriage. And I am saying that that kind of playing politics is needed.
I can give you an example from the other side, by the way, too.
Yeah, go for it.
Brother, you know what my position was during the election about Palestine, about Gaza. Kamala Harris was running to be the first Black woman to be president of the United States. You cannot imagine how animated Black folks were. And some would argue the base of the Democratic Party, Black women. You know what I mean? We're gonna,
They were not that animated. They were not that animated about it. There were some, yes, but like compared to the feeling around Obama, it wasn't even close. Not even a little bit.
She just thinks she was not taking a position that I thought was particularly moral. I had to talk in front of Black audiences about that. You know what I mean? And I had to do the other thing, which was go before Arab American audiences here, Palestinian American audiences here, and say, look, I'm with you. You can be mad at me. You probably will be mad at me. I get it. But for me, politics is the lesser of two evils. We've been fighting this battle for a long time. We have never had the luxury of electing people that represented the best of us. And this is why I'm voting for her. This is a really, really serious thing. And when you hear these Palestinian.
Yeah, but with the Kamala example, like that's an example of fucking up politics, because she didn't have a strong stance, because largely Joe Biden didn't really care about the Palestinian thing, even if he was president. The first hold on. I did not think Twitter.io would actually would take up a lot of space in my mind. But Joe Biden did put a lot of fines on like the settlements in the West Bank. And even if Joe Biden didn't really care about the Palestinians, as we saw with like the book Kamala released about her election campaign, but she didn't have a strong stance because she thought that it would be a bad look. It was the Kamala Harris example was more of a bad reading on on what the voter base felt. Like I don't know if it would have won her the election, but it would definitely helped if she took a stronger stance.
Americans, and when you hear these Muslim Americans, and when you hear these Arab Americans upset about this, you can't just yell at them. You have to take them seriously. These were hard, very, very difficult conversations. But they were, when I made those conversations, look, man, I had to be buttoned up about it. I just think you take very, very seriously the need to convince people outside of the tent right now, right? About like we have to convince them to come in. I guess what I want from you is I want you to take as seriously people who are in the tent and who are vulnerable and afraid. And if you have to convince them of something that's extremely, extremely uncomfortable, or tell them that you're taking a position that is extremely uncomfortable, I just think you owe them a little more. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
man.
That's fine. I'll take it. But I want to put this on you for a minute, right?
Sure.
You keep sort of putting it back on me.
Yeah, I'm open. Go ahead. I won't.
You keep putting it back on me here on the Ta-Nehisi Coates Show.
Yes, right.
What then should we do? What then should be? You are one of the most influential public intellectuals in the country. I know you don't like to think of politics as a thing you do, but it is a thing you do. What, as bad as you know this can get, and given that you are not a hopeless person, or who, doesn't think you should just collapse into fatalism, what do you think should happen now?
I think that really depends on what your role is. I don't have a great overarching theory for what everybody needs to do, because I think we all have different positions. I know what my role is. And I do see myself as part of politics, by the way.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very, very important way of answering the question. I mean, I'm not going to be the person that yells at you because, you went on a bunch of right-wing podcasts. As I've said many times, in the course of this interview, I see myself as a writer. I see myself as a journalist. I see myself as someone for whom it's very, very important to state the truth plainly. and to clarify things as best I can. I'm not a strategist for the party, you know, and I've tried to, as you raised in that Barack Obama piece, I've tried to respect the difference.
I guess I'm not pushing you to be a political strategist, right? I think that for me, something you see me doing right here, something I think people reacting to me doing is saying, well, if the fight is this profound and we're losing the fight, then the question is to think about how we fight.
Right.
Right?
Right.
That's something about knowing that this much of the country is, on the wrong side of what my line would have been.
Right.
Knowing that
Bro,
what
how
Kirk
the
was
fuck did I
doing,
do
people like
that?
him were doing was working. That
The scam
imposes a set of questions upon us that need to be answered.
Right. The thing I'm struggling with in this conversation and even in that question is the fact that there are things that you yourself have actually advocated for that had they been done, we would be having a very different conversation.
I think I wanted to not be close.
You said what?
I wanted to not be close.
You will call this my fatalism, but I am not surprised. I think it's going to be close. I think it'll be close for a very, very long time. I would like for it to be less close too. But
do you think that's within our power or not really?
Listen, I have a friend, and I'm not going to out him. He's a mutual friend of ours who always says, this is the best set of white folks we have ever had in the entire history of Black America. This is the most woke. This is the least racist. This is the most aware group that we have had. You know what I mean? Like, for us, and for those of us who ground ourselves in a larger tradition, this is not close. Like, this is a remarkable time. You know, in terms of our freedom, you know, as writers and journalists to speak to people, in terms of the amount of people who are empowered and have some amount of privilege and could just look away and are not looking away. You know, it's not a great time politically. You understand what I'm saying? But it's just, it's not the worst either.
No, it's not.
It's not the worst, you know?
All right, then. I think always our final question. What are 3 books you'd recommend to the audience?
So,
right.
The first book is a book called The Brothers by Stephen Kinzer,
kind of
which is a joint biography.
Especially for the last 30, 40 minutes. They were really like speaking about their disagreements. They were just going back and forth of I think this about the country. I think this about the country. And they weren't really speaking to each other. That was a little disappointing. I did really like Mr. Coates' article. But his performance here was disappointing. Ezra Klein, what did Ezra Klein do? It was whatever. I think he did better, but I don't like that. I still don't like that he won't go back and say Charlie Kirk did not do politics right. I didn't like that shit. Let's see what else. Let's see what else I got on the docket. What time is it? 9:15. Do I really have time to do more? How long is this video? All right, we got a 10-minute video. We got a little more politics. A little more about the Hodge twins. Hodge twins finally get their Negro wake-up call. Let's see. 10-minute video.
It wasn't so long ago
that a
guy by the name of Eric Orwell went viral. He's a Caucasian man that's living in Arkansas, and his group, RTTL, Return to the Land, they're going viral for building all-white communities in Arkansas and in Missouri. And he was interviewed on TMZ. He was asked a particular question.
Why is European heritage the purest form of European heritage, something that you embrace to the exclusion of others?
Okay, guys, you heard that question. His response was pretty interesting.
Well, for something to be what it is, it has to not be other things.
So for something to be one thing, it cannot be the other. This is his defense for starting an all-white town. He wants to have shared values, shared phenotype, a particular shared culture. And what he's saying is, as much as I may like you or I may think highly of you, you are not this because you are something else. And this is important for racism. This is where it starts. There's a fundamental principle about it. Anybody who practices that will say, because you are not this, you are the other thing. And then the two things cannot mix.
He's right, you know.
But this hasn't stopped certain people from grifting. And one of the guys that grift a lot are the Hodge twins. Now, the Hodge twins started off on YouTube doing, in my honest opinion, bodybuilding and satire, and they built a really, really, really big fan base. Well, their low budget videos and lack of innovation in the way they were going caused their fan base to fail. And people started to notice a change in the content.
Somebody needs to study the fall off of the Hodge twins, because I was really thinking about this the other day. I was like, is this a case of like chasing the bag and also inadvertently fumbling a future bag?
So this particular person was a fan of the Hodge twins, and he realized something.
Sure, man. How long ago was that?
These two big, light-skinned, raunchy brothers that are twins just makes sense in those kind of movies. Judd Apatow would have loved the Hodge twins, right? And I think to myself, that potential was screwed up because they thought to themselves, the conservative money will always be consistent and will always be coming. It's always going to be there.
So he understood something that's pretty interesting. First of all, the Hodge twins, they could have went to Hollywood with their natural talent, but they sold out.
No.
And how did they
No,
sell
they couldn't.
out? Well,
No,
they started
couldn't.
making conservative media content.
They are overglazing their talent. They are barely funny at the best of times.
But what kind of content? Well, it was the content that started disrespecting blacks. If you can go to their Twitter space, they do it all day long. Look at this one, July 29th. The kids get on it too. If you think blacks today are bad, just wait for the next generation. This is a lot of their content. Look at this one, the black trans dash gender.
And the fuck is he censoring? New level of black fatigue unlocked. What? Hawk to a girl got a podcast. I think they could. No, they're talking about like the Hodge twins, like like getting like some movie or a show. Like the Hodge twins already have like their own podcast. Like Hawk Tua isn't like starring in the Hawk Tua might star in the movie, but like it's not gonna be that successful. What the fuck are they censoring here? Tranny? Black tranny fatigue.
Genders are always the worst. He also says this: black guy with the pack and black hoodie embarrasses himself in AutoZone when the manager was watching him. So basically what happens is that the Hodge twins went from a comedic duo to an anti-black conservative duo in order to make money once their comedic duo started going down. And you got to understand something, that their mother was black. So they love their black mother a lot, but they did grift to this particular kind of conservative anti-black leaning space alongside of people, let's say like Candace Owens or Brandon Tatum. And it's gotten a lot of people upset.
The Hodge twins are demons, bro. These two guys are demons. There's no other word to describe them. They have millions of followers. They've been on YouTube and they've been on social media for over 10 years, and they built their platform basically by bashing black people, and they decided to use their platform to attack a 17-year-old, a young man, not even an adult.
OYN. Who the fuck is Carmelo Anthony? Hold on, I don't remember this guy. Holy shit. How the fuck do you spell Carmelo? I'm retarded. Mello. Who the fuck was this guy? No, wrong guy. Who the fuck was this guy? Oh shit! This is the guy that like stabbed the other kid. All right, I remember
platform
now.
to try to attack not only this man's character, his family's character before the trial even starts, so that way the public view will not think highly of him or his family.
As you can see here, you have somebody upset because that the Hodge twins were basically they're hating on Carmelo Anthony only to appease their all-white audience. Fast forward. Now, one of the things that the Hodge twins will do is they will react to videos. It just so happened that they were reacting to the Eric Arval video, and they were reacting to this new all-white town documentary, and they said something that was interesting.
To be honest, I don't want to live in the United States of America if it's not majority white. Once it becomes majority non-white, it's gonna be a much different country. It's gonna be a much different country. Well, that's just a fact. If you just look at voting statistics, how ethnicities other than white vote, this country would be totally different. So I understand the fear of white people.
These damn
want
blacks.
to live in a
These
country
damn
that's
blacks are
majority
voting for the
non-white.
wrong people.
I understand that fear wholeheartedly because I don't want to live in a country that's majority non-white because it would systematically change our country.
Now, they said something that was interesting there to me. They don't want to live in America when it's not the majority of white people, even though they themselves are not white. So they're saying if the white people leave America, they're going to leave America too. What? But they're not the only guys that talk like this.
America is a nation, not just from an economic standpoint, but we also have an identity too, a cultural identity. And I'll tell you guys this too. As someone who's a first-generation American, my family's from Sudan, etc., I should not be saying this stuff, but I'm going to be honest. A lot of these guys that come from the third world, to include my old homeland, come here and scam. And the reality is, if we want America to stay America, we got to keep it majority white. We got to keep it the way it was founded.
Now that's Myron of Fresh and Fit, basically saying the same thing. He wants an all-white America, even though he's from Sudan originally. We need to keep America white, although he is not white. But there was a time where Myron, who was trying to defend white races, got into a battle with a guy, basically calling him a saying N-word.
But you're sitting behind a anon account, can't even stand behind what the you're saying. You got the nerve to talk to me when I got my real name out there, my real face out there. I'm live every day talking about actually contributing to the fight, and you got the gall to sit there and call me a saying, you piece of shit. I hope you wake up and have the replay of this, and I hope I come on a space like a see your dumb and actually talk to you. This is the problem that we have in these spaces. We got these stupid, autistic that will sit there and say, well, you're not white, so you can't talk about this, or you're... And it's like, okay, Reed, you want to go ahead and have this fight by yourself where no one's going to take you seriously because they're going to just think you're a kid member? That's the problem.
So this is Myron basically going off on the guy for calling him all of that. But guess what?
And you know what's also funny? I'm one of the biggest advocates for white people being able to practice and say white power, be able to maintain their relationship with white women, etc. I'm actually one of the biggest proponents of white people.
I'm one of the good ones. I'm one of the good ones.
I want to keep my race white. I actually respect that, and I fight for their ability to say that. Then you get dads like this guy that come in and try to on one of their biggest advocates that has a platform that's of the other color saying this stupid. Idiots like you make me realize, damn, I shouldn't even be defending these. You're lucky that I really respect freedom of speech, and I'm a free speech absolutist, so I'll fight for your ability to say the stupid that you say, you stupid.
He's still telling the guy, look, I support you, even though you're disrespecting me, because I believe in free speech. I'm the one trying to help you guys stay white. Here you are being mean to me, which is crazy because those guys don't even care anything about you, but you're doing that. But this is where the Hodge twins get their Negro wake-up call. So the Hodge twins go on to Twitter, and then they put this message. Hey, Arval, I know your community is whites only.
Bro. Dude, that is so... Banding over for the white man. I know your community is whites only. But could you make an exception for us two Negroes? Get us two poor Negroes. Get in. We're not even full sub-Saharan. We're over 40% white. Holy shit. these 40-year-olds bending over.
Exceptions for us two Negroes, we're not even full sub-Saharan. We are over 40% white. And Orval said,
white passing streamer, would you do the same? White. Go. want to live in a white only community? Shit, man. Fuck it, man. Why not? Why not?
Is this?
I'll go there, man. Cause at least I know the Hodge twins won't be there.
God bless the Hodge twins. But no. It's crazy to be out there defending these Caucasians all day, but the people that you want to appeal to might be closely feeling like Orval, because the majority of the Hodge twins content is anti-black. So if your content is anti-black, it must mean that the whites who are listening to you can feel very closely to you, so they don't want to live around blacks either. But there's a problem. You're black. Byron is black. If they're building an all-white community, they don't want you there, because it's good that you guys are nice and God bless you, and we love the fact that you call out anti-blackness, but you're not allowed here. And it's so crazy is these guys know this. Myron knows it. Hodge twins knows it. The Hodge twins, they're getting paid from it. Myron's not even getting paid from it, but anything to be closer to White Zaddy. If you don't want to be around me, I'm not going to help you why you don't want to be around me. That's stupid, but that's how sick that some blacks are. You would rather help somebody who dislikes you, doesn't want to be anywhere around you, and fight other people to help them basically get ahead. You sound stupid. But guys, what do you think? It's your boy Yoshi D Jackson back at it again.
All right, that video was kind of overly dragged out. I think I think I'm gonna save the rest. I'm gonna save the rest for Wednesday. Oh, we got Wednesday. We got Caleb Hammer stuff. Who knows Caleb Hammer in chat? Actually, and one more thing. Actually, I do have one last topic. Gotta get this out of the way. So on the first stream, I talked about an app that I forget what company developed for you to directly message another person's employer to report them about comments they made. Charlie Kirk. Oh, on September 22. An article comes out. App for outing Charlie Kirk critics. Leaked its users' personal data. An app for anonymously reporting individual accused of speaking ill against conservative activist Charlie Kirk leaked personal data about its user. The app, known as Cancel the Hate, was taken offline on Thursday amid an investigation into the data leak by Straight Arrow News. Launched in the wake of Kirk's assassination on September 10th, Cancel the Hate aims to hold individuals accountable for public words, according to its website. It calls on users to express concern by submitting intel on alleged offenders, including their names, locations, and employers. Cancel the Hate highlights a particular interest in medical professionals whose conduct would endanger patients, the website says, as well as public officials, business owners, entertainers, influencers, teachers, and education administrators. We do not seek revenge or mob justice, the website says. Our goal is transparency to ensure the individuals in positions of power cannot hide hateful words or actions from public scrutiny. They should not be harassed, threatened, or harmed in any way. They should only go broke. The app is part of a broader effort among conservatives to punish those who have criticized Kirk or are seen as celebrating a shooting at a public speaking event on a Utah college campus. Cancel the Hate was founded by conservative activist Jason Shepard, who is best known for selling fentanyl testing kits. With comedian Roseanne Barr, vaccine skeptic Dr. Robert Malone, and right-wing journalist Laura Logan. The website says all reports must include verifiable information about the submitter. Cancel the Hate says users who submit data on others will not have their own personal details made public. However, a social media style app launched alongside the website appears to have been exploiting just that. The flaw in the app, discovered by the security researcher who identifies himself as Bob the Hacker, enabled the exposure of user information such as email addresses and phone numbers. Although email addresses were included in profiles' bios by default, seemingly unbeknownst to many of the platform's users, the data could still be exposed even if privacy settings were enabled to keep it hidden. Sam reached out to Cancel the Hate over a contact form on its website to inquire about the vulnerabilities in the app, but did not receive a reply. The webpage hosting the app was taken offline several hours later, but not before Sam was able to obtain a copy and set up an account. Bob the Hacker provided Sam with a sample from 142 users, including information from their own test account. The hacker also demonstrated how the security flaw allowed them to remove users by deleting Sam's account. A message sent by Sam to the company that Bill canceled the hate websites and app went unanswered. Sam reached out to a user listed in leaked data and confirmed that they in fact downloaded the app. The user, who asked to remain anonymous over fears of retribution, expressed concern that Cancel the Hate might be a scam after receiving an influx of donation requests to their email. Folks that need to be outed. In a post on Facebook last week, Shepard claimed that Cancel the Hate had received more than 38,000 reports in the first 30 hours after its launch. Shepard also said that the social media app could be used to better organize and focus on outing folks that need to be outed. Since Shepard's profiles on Facebook and X, as well as those that belong to Cancel the Hate, have been deleted without explanation, the deletions came after Shepard was bombarded with complaints from critics of the website. Shepard didn't respond to multiple emails or phone messages from San, given the vulnerabilities remain. San has declined to publish any further technical details. Editor's note: a previous version of this article incorrectly listed the founders. Alright. Embarrassing shit. Embarrassing as hell, but that's all I have for today. Hopefully Wednesday there will be more news, but we'll have Caleb Hammer news. I'll probably put on another podcast this time with Gavin Newsom's podcast, where he has
I do want to
Atriarch on. If that name sounds familiar, he is the guy that exposed himself for jerking off the deepfake porn of his friends, of his fellow streamer colleagues. We'll see how entertaining it is. But yeah, man, that's That's it. WRL stream. WRL stream. WRL. I don't got a clue who the last remaining viewer is. What's your man? Alright. I'll go ahead and end it. WWW.